Hello and welcome to the Game Informer Show. I am your host, Andy McNamara, and I'm joined today by Brian Shea.
Hello.
And Ben Reeves.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Feeling pretty good.
Hanging in there.
There's some sickness going around, and I've avoided it so far.
It's kind of scary. Yeah, there's a couple of colds going around. You're like, I don't want anything to do with that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, you're like, good to see you. Are you sure you should be here? Is the first response to anyone that we see at the office.
Yeah, one person in particular walked in today, and I immediately relocated to the other side of the room.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even sick. You just don't like that person.
Yeah. I was talking about somebody else.
Yeah.
So let's do a little cliche here in the podcast. Well, what have you guys been playing? Doing?
Playing Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah? Same here. You?
Me? Yeah, I've been playing a lot of that as well. I actually just finished Fire Emblem Three Houses. I was kind of late to that game,
nice.
but I really ended up liking it.
I haven't even started that game. I bought it at midnight when it came out, and I was like, I'm going to save this for the trip to Gamescom.
Uh-huh.
And then whenever I get on a plane, I have grand ambitions of like what I'm going to play on that plane, and then I never play any of it. Same thing, like I download all these movies, I download all these games to my Switch or 3DS or whatever I have at that time, and then I end up just listening to podcasts the entire time.
This sounds like a personal problem.
It really is.
Yeah, it really does.
It's miserable. I'd be so much more efficient at like getting through my backlog if I actually played games on planes.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, you blew it. You should have played Fire Emblem.
It's great.
But I've also been playing Star Wars, and I've really been enjoying that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'm nearing the end. Not quite there yet, but I feel like my everything's filled in slowly but surely, or mostly filled in. I feel like I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know where you guys are.
I'm still pretty early. I just did that temple where you're like putting balls in things.
You're very general today in all your discussions. There's a lot of temples in this game.
Yeah.
If you just say I'm at a temple,
I thought that the puzzle would be. I described the puzzle.
I got you, and I understand. We're protecting any kind of a spoiler, and we don't want to get into anything like that. But in general, and you guys are enjoying the game.
Yeah. Oh, I'm loving it a lot. Yeah.
I'm
really surprised Reiner only gave it an 8.75. I expected more actually, based on what I played.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I have a love-hate. Definitely. I mean, I definitely am super enjoying the game, but there's times where you're just like, I feel like just the combat, it comes and goes. Like sometimes I feel like it's really on fire and like really like firing, and maybe it's just me. And then other times I'm like, I swear to God, I don't know why this isn't working now when it worked before, and just some weird frame stuff.
I can see that.
The timing seems different, like with you're trying to block at the right time to like stun a guy, and sometimes it's really easy, and other times it's like this is the same guy, same character type, but for some reason this timing feels different.
Yeah, or they're just like, there's owning your face. You're like, I don't understand why this particular time this guy is owning my face.
Right.
It goes back and forth. But I mean, I've enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. So it's just like those kind of like weird, kind of nagging issues. And I laugh every time when it's like, I know you guys aren't very far in the game, but you're like, I still do that. I see the boxes that are in the world. Like, oh, there's a box in the world. And I'm like, oh, a new poncho material. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Do you ever unlock?
Why did I just waste my time coming over here to get a new poncho material? I mean, it's like on the list of things a gamer ever wants to get as a reward. I just feel like poncho material.
What about lightsaber switch though?
I mean, actually, lightsaber switch is better to me than poncho material. Right? Have you been playing, Leo?
Yeah, I have.
And
I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
My biggest complaint is probably that there's just a massive gulf between normal difficulty and easy difficulty. Normal can still be really harder than I want sometimes, and then easy is just baby diaper mode.
Yeah. There's definitely times when there's a lot of like you have to fight a lot of things. It feels a little less precise to me, and I just use force powers to try to push people off cliffs.
Yeah.
That's been my solution, is I just try to push people off cliffs.
That's still one of my favorite things. There's some characters that are like too good to be pushed or something. You're like, you're right on the edge and I just force pushed you. Go over already. Yeah. But
yeah, it's kind of like you got like your force powers they've run out of juice, or they're just not good enough.
Just on certain guys.
On certain people.
Because they have black outfits. They're
Correct.
better. Yeah.
Yeah. There is some of that. Or I've been making this joke a little bit in my head, and this is kind of obnoxious, but every time I walk up to a creature and I see it across the map, and I'm like, oh, I have to go kill it with my Jedi lightsaber. I'm like, couldn't someone just give me a blaster, and I could just totally Indiana Jones it and just like shoot it from across the map and just walk past these creatures that are bothering me, rather than like go toe-to-toe with them with a
Not
lightsaber.
The Jedi way.
I know, but it's
so uncivilized, in the words of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I see it all the time. I see just like all the time. Like if I just had a blaster, I'd just shoot it from here and I'd walk right past it. Yeah. But I know that would not be a good game, and I understand that. But it pops in my head all the time. I'm
then
like,
you make that Mandalorian game. That's
yeah.
what I want.
Yeah. See, there you go. That would be really cool. Maybe they can do that. That would be really cool. I mean, I hope Respawn keeps making Star Wars games because this was really great addition.
I wanna
to
see
Turns
the
out
Star Wars
Respawn is good at making video games.
They are very good at making video games.
Play Titanfall 2.
Well, it's crazy they put out 2 this year, and both of them are really good games.
Yeah, Apex is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're crushing it right now. Definitely. I mean this in a good way. I mean, they're the most exciting thing at EA. You know what I mean? They're just taking off. Like they're just crushing it.
They really are
across the board. So very impressive. Kudos to them. Sorry, I just went on a little tangent there. I just wanted to go let's just talk about what's going on. So today in this segment, what we want to talk about was Stadia. Or actually, I should talk about the whole show. So for the show, we're going to talk Stadia. We're going to talk X019, and then we're going to talk Shenmue, and then we're going to follow that up with community emails. And then after that, we're going to continue this kind of experiment I've been having where we sit down, bring some editors in, and I interview them essentially on how they feel about the game of the year, what games they're excited about for game of the year, just kind of general game of the year discussions. Last week was the first kind of segment of that. I thought it was a lot of fun. Ben, you were there.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting conversation. Hopefully everyone else enjoyed it as well, because I want to continue that and see if we can get as many episodes out of that as possible. Not that I'm lazy, but that I actually think this is a great conversation. So hopefully you do too and enjoy it. So that'll be the show. But like I said, this segment, we're going to talk Stadia, and then we want to talk X019. And we can go back and forth between them as we go along the way. So Stadia launched on Tuesday of this week. And so they've had a rough launch, let's say. I think they've had some communication issues, probably even from all the way back when they first started out with the process. But Ben, you worked on the review for Game Informer. Why don't you tell us a little about Stadia and what you thought about your time with it?
I did, yeah. I mean, you say it launched specifically for people who bought the $130 early adopter
The Founders
package.
Edition.
Founders
Correct.
Edition.
Correct. Yes.
So you can't just jump in and expect to start playing if you didn't buy that.
So what does that come with?
Well, it comes with the controller. It comes with a Google Chromecast. No, not Chromecast.
Chromecast Ultra.
Chromecast Ultra. Sorry.
Yeah.
So is it like 4K, I guess? Like
That's
Yeah.
to support 4K, yes.
Right, exactly. And then you get a 3-month subscription to Google Stadia Pro. Which is their equivalent of Xbox Live, let's say maybe. Although you need it to get 4K streaming. Otherwise, you're just 1080p and surround sound. So it's better streaming, which leads me to the next part of like, how does it perform? Like I found that it performed pretty well. ... if you have like a really good internet. So surprise, surprise, you need like really solid internet to have like a good stream. And here at the office, I think we have pretty good internet. So I didn't really have much of a problem here. At home, my internet sucks. And so I had a lot more of issues. I actually had dropped games. Not very often, but I had that. I had a lot of artifacting, a little bit of a stutter. It was playable. I played Destiny at home. I was able to finish a strike without any issue. I played some competitive and was not very competitive, turns out. But I don't know. I found that, like, for me, I was like kind of surprised at how well it worked. I thought it worked better than I expected. But you need
would
that
agree with
really
that
good
statement.
internet.
Yeah.
So what is the minimum recommended like bandwidth that they want?
They have a site that you can go to. I think you can do like test connection. If you just like, for lack of a better term, if you Google like Stadia test connection, it'll bring you to a site where you can just hit like a button. It'll tell you what it thinks your experience will be, right? Whether it'll be great or things like that.
I didn't know if they had like, we recommend at least X amount megabits per second.
I think they do. I think it's been somewhere on the lines of like 25 for 4K.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it? I think that's what it is, but I don't know what the minimum is for 1080.
1080. Or,
Yeah. I was running around 25 at home and having some problems.
I do think it's
So-
interesting, and I will say I played it as well, and I tried it out on different things. I know, as for a fact, by the way, one of the problems with my home network is that I have some Apple routers, and they really hate prioritizing gaming. And Apple's kind of dropped their whole router game altogether. I need to change over, and I haven't decided what I want to do yet. I have my own home networking issues, but I think that's one of the things. Everyone has their own home networking issues, but one of the things that's kind of crazy about Stadia is that when you have things in your network that cause problems, and mine is that it has a problem prioritizing gaming, so it gets really fussy sometimes, where it's just like if everyone in the house is using things, it's kind of like, oh, someone's watching a movie, and it'll throttle me for no reason, even though I have a ton of bandwidth, just because the router is fussy. And I've had problems with even on PlayStation of it being like, oh, we don't like your voice chat. Goodbye, right? And there's just it's really hard to configure to make sure it doesn't do that. So part of the problems I think that Stadia faces is that someone at their home network needs to make sure that they know how to do things in the home network, which is its own challenge unto itself. But I do think when I did have it connected to, I had multiple, last night I was playing. I've been playing every night. Last night I was playing, and I played from my couch, and I was playing Destiny on the phone and with the controller.
That's neat. I tried that out at a coffee shop as well, actually, and it worked better than I expected.
It works way better. And the thing is with Destiny, I was like, I know there's a meme going around where someone's jumping and it takes really slow. I've never had that issue. I've always had it react. When I've had bad experiences, it's just been kind of choppy, which or the audio will blip in and out. I feel like audio is one of the first thing that drops from the stream that kind of happens, and you kind of it's like a glitch in the Matrix, like the cat has walked by kind of thing. It doesn't really stop me from enjoying the game, but I'm like, wait a second, I think something went wrong there. But it did it. I mean, I was jumping and trying to trick it. You know what I mean? Because there's the negative latency, looking up, looking down, and trying to just go in different directions. It felt very responsive to me. I've been trying to play multiplayer, and I have not been able to get a match going. I missed, actually, they had a multiplayer sessions this weekend that I missed. Yeah. That I really wanted to be a part of, because I agree with you. I feel like in normal gameplay, even for Destiny, which I feel is a very tight and responsive game, and you need to be able to hit headshots and things like that to be effective, it feels really good to me.
Well, there's always kind of jumping to X019, which is for those aren't aware, it's Microsoft's big fan fest that they hold every year. Last year was Mexico City. This year it was in London. So I was there, and I was talking to a lot of the people about xCloud, which is their game streaming initiative. And I was talking about how do you make this as appealing to people as playing locally? Because for me, that's the big thing. Is I'm always going to prefer to play a local version of the game, download it to my Xbox or my PS4 or my PC, as opposed to streaming it. And well, first of all, Phil flat out said playing locally is always going to be the best way. I'm not going to ever look you in the eye and say you should play xCloud because it's as good, if not better, than playing locally. He's locally is always going to be the best way. And then talking to Kareem Chowdhury, who is I think he's the vice president of xCloud.
Yeah.
He was talking about how they've found in their studies it's not so much lowering latency that's the priority. It's more of making latency consistent. And he's saying that the brain is actually really good at compensating for latency. So as long there's always going to be latency because there's the problem, as they call it, is solving for the speed of light. Because that's all you can ever do is the speed of light exists.
Well, there's latency in the games you play now. Even when you play them locally and you're playing them online, you're playing on someone else's machine. I mean, there's always some kind of latency that, I mean, everyone acts like they live in a zero latency world, and that's not entirely true. Even your controller will have latency between you, your TV. Yeah. I mean, exactly. There's a lot of
If you ever played Rock Band or Guitar Hero on an HD TV, you have to calibrate for the latency of your TV and your controller. But if it's locally, there's one less variable that you have to deal with as opposed to game streaming, where it's compensating for somebody's internet, compensating for the data center, getting you your information. So their big thing right now is trying to make it so the latency is consistent. So your brain will pick up okay, well, I have to compensate for this amount, and that'll make it so that you don't notice it as much.
Did you get to play with xCloud while you were out there?
I did,
because I messed around with it at E3, and I thought there was a little bit more noticeable lag than there was with Stadia. So I just wondered if they've improved since E3.
It seemed pretty solid. I mean, again, it's I don't know the environment that I was in. The internet at the arena that the event was held in was not great when I was just on my phone in between appointments. However, maybe they had a private network set up for this, so I don't know if they were running on gigabit internet out of their whatever setup that they had, or if they were running on the same internet I was using at the arena, then it was remarkable.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I was playing what game? I think it was Gears 4 on
4.
I think it was 4.
Huh.
On a phone. Like
Yeah.
it's the controller with like the little stand and the phone
Yeah.
like right above it.
And that's the coolest thing is like being able to play these types of games. If you're going to stream, like you can play them theoretically anywhere. And,
Anywhere
like,
that has
being
a
able to
good
play
right now with a good Wi-Fi.
with
Yeah.
good Wi-Fi. Yeah.
I think
not over
5G, not to interrupt, 5G is what I think the industry believes will change that scenario so that you will not need Wi-Fi to deliver streamed content.
Right.
Well, right now, Stadia is only Wi-Fi, correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah, you can't
so
do cellular.
you can do cellular on xCloud, 4G or 5G ideally, and Wi-Fi obviously. But they said that so right now they're only doing 720 because it's still in preview, and they're hoping to up that res at some point in the near future. But their minimum requirement is 10 megabits per second, which I think is very attainable for a lot of mobile devices.
Well, I think like anything, and I think this is maybe one of the things I wanted to talk about was that, for me, I'm actually really excited about cloud, and I know that sounds crazy because I know there's a lot of people that are kind of. I'm excited because I think when I look at like every new platform, like you say, like I always want to play locally, and I've always been that same like world. The thing that's interesting to me is that every time someone announces a new console, the last couple of goes has been like, hey, resolution's higher. Do you know what I mean? And like even as we go into this new generation, which we haven't seen yet, a lot of times it's like, hey man, we're gonna have SSDs that makes loading faster. And I'm like, this is cool, and stuff I want, but I remember when the leaps forward were like big.
Yeah, like
right.
SNES to N64.
Yeah, you were like, whoa, like you could look at it and immediately be like, this is different, right? And I feel like a lot of things that we do now, a lot of the games we do are very similar. And by the way, I love games and I love all these games, but one of the things that excites me about cloud is that if they can get the latency down to where like you said, where it's consistent and you don't notice it being on the cloud, which I felt like I had that experience when I had good internet at home, right? I know there's the internet variables there, and I was like, wow, what could you make with this, right?
Well,
and I think a lot of the games that we see now are like you were playing Gears 4 and we were playing Destiny and all those things like that are games that exist now, right? That we see on like we've already seen on console, or like, for me, I'm playing a lot of these games already on PC, and I saw someone say about Destiny, like, it's really amazing that all the download speeds are so fast and you get into the world so quickly. And I'm like, I'm on PC, it's already pretty quick. You know what I mean? Like, it all depends on where you play as to your perspective on that. But those little things, I think, really matter. And I also, one of the things I thought was amazing about Stadia, and I'm sure with xCloud and every single streaming service, all the way back to OnLive, and it was just a weird moment where it's like, oh, I got my code for the game. And I put it in, which would be like going to the store and buying it. And then I would back up and go to the next browser that it was in, and I would just hit play. Which after having done Red Dead and which Red Dead is awesome and also looks good on Stadia as well, the download took me like 3 hours, and I've got like 300 meg or 300 gig down. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane, and it was still like super slow, right? And so because it's a huge file. But I think what I'm excited about with this is that now that I feel like Google's in, and everyone's kind of like, and PlayStation's more serious about PlayStation Now, and Xbox is, working on xCloud and trying to get that out there, and it's already in beta, and they're going to keep pushing that forward, is that we're going to get games native to the cloud that are going to be made in a data center, which to me, that's like, as we can only have like these kind of smaller leagues forward in consoles, I'm excited to see when there's a whole center that's like creating my game experience, or that people, clever game designers are coming with new ways to use that as a new way to create new gameplay experiences.
Yeah.
So for me, I definitely see the problems that are there, and like, the kind of rocky launch. But when I wanted to be like, oh, streaming, it's just going to be the latency's going to be too bad, it's going to be unplayable. I was playing Samurai Showdown last night, and I was like, it's a fighting game, and it feels pretty good. And I was like, they'll never be able to do a fighting game. And it's like, they did a fighting game. They'll never be able to do Destiny. And you're like, they were able to do Destiny. Yeah. And, and that's the other thing too, is I look back to when CD-ROM happened, and I never wanted cartridge to go away. I don't know about you guys, but I never wanted cartridge to go away.
Just because the loading was way faster?
Because the loading was way faster, and like you had a complete game, you put it in, like you went. And when CD-ROM came out, I was like, this is never going to work. No one's going to deal with any of these problems.
You and Miyamoto, we were on the same page.
Yeah, we were like, nah, this is not. I think I famously said in a letter from the editor, "Not my wave." I think it was just a funny one, but I was like, I'm totally against this. I hate it. And it was just because I was looking at all the problems that were present now.
Right.
Right. And like, in this case, I'm trying to maybe be positive in that go like, okay, I see the problems and they're there and they're real, right? My network, the problems you had at home, right? And everything like that. But I'm trying to look on the positive side on this, and I think about what we could do in those game space, and it kind of, I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. Well,
like
I agree with you, and I think your example's interesting. Is like we didn't used to have load times, and then we did, but like the fact that CDs brought all these other benefits with them, like better audio, video, storage capacity.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we were able to put up with those load times for the benefits. And so streaming has some downsides, but I think I could put up with some lag occasionally if it brought some benefits. And right now, the only benefit is, like you said, the instantaneous play, which is neat.
Yeah.
But I was hoping for a little bit more. I think it feels like a beta rollout because there's a lot of features that aren't out yet, like state share, for example, is one that I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
But it's not out yet. So, and also, just like you were saying, there's a big data center out there that can run a bunch of cool games, but they don't have any exclusive games yet.
So they won Guilt, but
but that's not really a big AAA game, right?
No, correct.
So I think it would have helped them if they had that kind of big, interesting, like, here's an experience you can only have on Stadia, and roll out with that. So it's an interesting, like, it feels kind of like a weak launch. I'm excited about the tech, but it just doesn't feel like Stadia was ready for prime time, if that makes sense.
No, you know what it feels like? It feels like an in-progress game launching on Steam. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
totally.
And like I thought it was weird because we reviewed it, and I think it was a fair review, right? 100%. It was like one of those things that I even thought about. I was like, this is just so weird reviewing something that, like, I don't know why. I guess I don't understand why they were in such a hurry to get it out. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, short those other things. I know they had problems getting codes to people. They've had some other challenges, but I do think it feels to me like you said earlier, they're going for a beta. Right? You know what I mean? It's launched to founders and to people that ordered the Premier Edition. I know they have a planned, and maybe you can explain this a little bit better. They have a free edition that they hope to have next year.
Early next year. I don't think they put out a date, but yeah, I mean, eventually anybody with a Google account can just be like, well, I'm going to buy, you still have to buy the games, a la carte. So you'd go buy your game and then, click play just like you can now.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like, you can do it right off of Chrome. Like, it's really cool on any laptop. I did it on my really crappy laptop. Totally works. Which is neat.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. I think there's that beta feel to the launch that is kind of funky. But there's definitely, I mean, I think if the test was, did it work? I think you and I would both agree, and I think that it did. And that was kind of crazy.
Right.
I definitely was impressed.
Well, I think, like you're saying, next year when it is free, the service is free, so to speak. Like, I think that's when it'll find that audience it needs, like the casual gamer who doesn't want to spend money on a console. Like, this is for them.
Yeah.
But right now, there's that barrier to entry.
Yeah, there is that, and they have other options down the line too. I think it'll be interesting to see how all the platforms react to Microsoft's Game Pass. Do you know what I mean? I think that's something that as we see the next consoles launch and as Stadia grows and everyone kind of isn't in the game, like what that changes. If it just stays with Microsoft or if other people come to the table. I know PlayStation Now offers a lot of titles as part of that, but they said they weren't going to include their like top tier games.
It's not like they're exclusives on day one. Like I think they just put like
there's a bunch of caveats.
Uncharted 4 and God of War and Persona 5 just hit, but like Persona 5 is only on for like 70 days, so like good luck getting through that game.
That is true. So I think those are all interesting things that we'll see build up, I think, over the next year and kind of define themselves, especially as we get the new platforms and the new hardware announced. So it'll be interesting to watch.
And like, speaking of like using the cloud technology to like do interesting gameplay elements, kind of segueing into Flight Simulator, which I saw at X019. I got to play that. I don't know if you've checked out any of like the assets or the videos from that, but
it looks
like,
amazing.
It's all photos. Like, it's satellite imagery that they're using to like just create the entire world, and it's all streaming from the cloud, because the way that I was talking to the I think it was the creative director of the game, where he was talking about how just downloading one city in the photorealistic,
it would fill up your whole drive. Yeah,
it was 23 gigabytes just for one city, and there's like thousands of cities across the world, and they had the entire globe in the game. So it's like you can just get up in the sky and fly around. And like I was flying around Naples. I was flying around like the Seattle area. It was really cool.
That is pretty amazing.
And they use the cloud to get that onto your machine. And it looks incredible.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting use of using the cloud to make a game different.
Yeah,
right?
that you couldn't do that unless like they said something, whatever is above a terabyte. I don't know what that is, but like it would be like 300 of those.
Yeah.
300 whatever terabyte superior is in order
Petabyte?
to... What is it?
Petabyte? PETA?
Maybe. But yeah.
Sounds right.
It's like hundreds of those just to store the entire planet.
So you won't be able to play this game offline?
Doesn't sound like it. I wonder if there's like a way you can just download like a chunk of it, kind of like Google Maps.
Yeah,
like
I want to play Seattle.
Yeah, like I'm going to
offline.
be on a plane and I need to fly a plane while I'm on a plane. So let me download Seattle.
I mean, how often are our game consoles offline?
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Switch maybe because we're on a plane, but it feels like that's a rarer occurrence.
Like unless your internet
days.
goes down.
Well, depends on what part of the country you live in, I bet. But yeah, for us.
Yeah, I think for us, but I mean, I think everywhere has internet. It's a question like whether the internet is fast, right? I mean, am I wrong on that? I mean, I feel like everyone has internet. It's a question of whether your local ISP is garbage or not.
I think so for the
Right?
most part.
I feel like it's gotten all over the world, right? There's not many places, even if you get like satellite, you know, that you can get it anywhere. At least in the whatever larger countries of the world. Maybe not the entire globe, but I feel like most places you can get internet. So I feel like that's kind of a constant, right? I don't think that's a concern.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I before we move on, because I do want to talk about X019, I did want to point out I was also playing Kine, which on Stadia, which is also out on other platforms as well. I think it's just on PC maybe at this point. I should have maybe checked ahead of time, but I've been playing on Stadia. It's a puzzle game, a lot of fun. I just want to make sure I threw that out there as a game
Yeah.
I was enjoying and having a good time with. Do you have anything else you want to add about cloud gaming? Oh, what was the score you gave it?
Yeah, we gave it a number score, so I gave it a 6 out of 10, which largely like the missing feature. You can read the review; it's up online right now.
Great.
Also, there's a video that me and Leo and Cork did, a new gameplay today, where we show off, so you can see it in action.
Oh, awesome! Well, thanks for doing that. But any last thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I would say probably most people can rest easy. Feel like maybe they're not missing anything out right now, but it's something to keep your eye on. Like eye on the horizon. Like streaming could be interesting. Stadia, xCloud. I'm excited to see how Microsoft rolls theirs out. I think theirs is really promising because you can also download games.
Yeah,
if you really want to play them.
And I like that
The best of both worlds. I think
you don't have to rebuy the games, which I think is the major selling point. Like if you own a game on Xbox One, you can just play that game on xCloud, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's like already built into like something you've bought into, and that makes it pretty enticing for me because it's like, all right, I have like 400 or 500 games in my Xbox One library. Just be able to like, not every game is on there.
So you can ignore that backlog on the cloud,
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
you ignored it at
So I
home.
can just go and play Overwatch instead. I mean, and it's not every game. I think there's like 50 games on preview right now, but like they're steadily building it up further and further, which is exciting.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it's going to be really interesting to watch where all this goes. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think, to see what develops. So you were in London
I was.
at X019.
Yes, I was. It was a lot of fun.
It was. You had a good experience.
It's always nice when you get to go to like these fan-driven events. Like a PAX is like the best example, I think, because it's like it's nice to kind of be rejuvenated by the enthusiasm of people who don't do this every day. Like it's.
I know what you mean.
I mean,
yeah.
I try never to take this job for granted or like this line of work for granted, but like it's hard to know that like, oh, these people are like just losing their minds over, seeing a row of Xboxes with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order a day before release or like the morning of release. It's like, oh, they haven't had a chance to buy this yet. So they're like excited to play this game that, has been, it's out for 12 hours. And by then it's like we often have moved on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the excitement is infectious from crowds
it's
like
great.
that. It really is. It really is.
Yeah, and like I feel that every single time I go to a PAX, it's like, oh, this is like a shot in the arm to like kind of remind me why I do this. Like it's not just like business as usual, you know?
So they started the show off showing another new game from Rare, which is kind of exciting. I mean, after that big long drought, we had Sea of Thieves, and now we have a game called Everwild.
Yeah.
Tell us about that trailer, because that's about all we got was a trailer.
Yeah, it's beautiful, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, say what you will about like Sea of Thieves, and I've heard nothing but great things since launch. Like talking to a bunch of
They've done a great job
yeah,
supporting
I
it.
talked to some people who were like Sea of Thieves influencers out in London, and they were like, yeah, if you only played during launch, like you have to go back. It's so much better now. And they were like amped about like the new stuff they added, which I think was like you can shoot fire at people, and like it's just apparently going to become anarchy on Sea of Thieves.
Which, by the way, I don't play Sea of Thieves. I actually watch a little bit of Sea of Thieves on Twitch. I've got some content creators I like, and one of them plays a fair amount, and it's funny to watch them like attack and be pirates and steal someone's ship and like all that kind of stuff. I think it's kind of entertaining. So I've been watching a lot of Sea of Thieves, not playing a lot of Sea of Thieves, but yes, I think it's been a success story.
Yeah, I think
Definitely.
overall, like since
Yeah.
launch, like it's definitely been one of those they righted the ship, if you will.
Heyo.
But like either way, like whether you love or hate Sea of Thieves or completely indifferent to it, it's a pretty looking game. Like there's some good looking environments.
Visually, it just looks really cool art style.
Yeah.
Like some kind of alien planet thing with deer that have antlers that unfold or something. Like it's
For
really.
a second, I thought you were talking about Sea of Thieves, which I was like, "There's deer with antlers."
Oh,
no, we're talking about Everwild.
Yeah,
Yes,
Everwild.
yes,
Sorry,
yes,
sorry.
yes, yes,
Other
sorry.
new-
I do think Sea of Thieves has a distinct art style, as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
But I was talking about Everwild, which does look really cool.
It almost reminded me of like Breath of the Wild, like in terms of like the art style.
Yeah, it has that kind of slash anime feel to it.
Yeah. I really liked it. I would love to learn more about it. I don't know anything about it aside from what the trailer is.
It seems like it's maybe co-op in some level. You would see like three guys or creatures like walking around. Presumably the player character.
Yeah, and they would stop and like put the hand back as the kind of like, hold up, I need to approach this creature, which they do have. There's a lot of shots of animals.
Yeah.
So there's some kind of like they're very interested in animals. There's a whole scene of just animals cuddling, right? Which is like
I'm for.
Yeah, I was
for
like, all
animals
right, all
cuddling.
right, all right,
Minigame?
cuddling. I don't know. We don't know, right? There was no out and out like combat shown, so it was like shown to be like kind of like you said, like
Right.
is it multiplayer? Does it have that kind of journey element to it? I think those were a lot of questions that popped in my mind, especially when you said because there's like those three kind of human-like characters. It seemed to be there was like like an elfish forest lady that seemed to be kind of maybe the main protagonist in this. I once again have no idea, but the end of the video she reaches out and touches some crazy elk thing, as you kind of pointed out earlier, and that's the end. So maybe it's coming back, getting in touch with nature somehow. I don't know. It does look very interesting and very, very pretty. It's a very gorgeous looking game.
Yeah, I can't wait to learn more about it. Is that a next year release?
You're the one that went,
It's one
Brian.
of those things like when you're at E3 and it's like, oh wait, that game was at E3 like 2 weeks later because you just completely miss all the stuff that's on the ground.
I do seem to remember, like, I just recently watched the video again to make sure I was ready for the show. Believe it or not, people, I actually prepare for this. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I try to. I felt like everything was like 2020.
Yeah.
I kept writing down like sometime 2020, sometime 2020,
xCloud's
sometime
2020, Scarlet's 2020. Yeah,
yeah.
everything's 2020 for Xbox right now.
and not a defined 2020, a just like, you'll
get it when you get it.
sometime. So that was very, very much a thing. And so then it went on to introduce Grounded from Obsidian, which we talked about last week, and you actually went and visited them ahead of time, and that was on last week's show, but I think we should touch on it quickly.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool little survival game where we use the analogy Honey, I Shrunk the Kids because you get shrunk down to the size of a bug and you're trying to survive in your backyard. You can play it 4-player co-op. Kind of in the style of those games like Rust, but it's like a little more kid-friendly, I would say.
Yeah.
Cool little thing from Obsidian.
It looks fun.
Yeah, it was a small team that started it and kind of just they wanted to incubate this idea, and now it's grown into this, and it's kind of exciting that they had a lot going on there. So certainly the name cracks me up because but that's just me.
And has some of that Obsidian heat coming off it after the Outer Worlds blew up.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Which another one of those games that has kind of a little bit of that heat coming off the big game is Crossfire X, which was I guess they gave the first like gameplay reveal during the Inside Xbox episode, and the reason that has some heat is because Remedy, the developer of Control, is doing the campaign for that game.
Yes.
Are they involved in the story as well, or are they just making like single player missions?
I think they're developing an entire like story campaign, like story-driven campaign.
Nutty to me to have Remedy on like some kind of military shooter.
Yeah, right. Well, it's about like two like factions. Crossfire for people out in the West, which is I would say the majority of people listening to this podcast, is actually one of the most played games in the world.
Yeah,
it's just enormous in Asia, and it has been for the past decade. So Crossfire X is like their big push to like westward expansion
and modernize it. It's
and
not
modernize,
the original game is not good looking.
I mean, their big thing. I was talking to Smilegate, who is the developer of the original Crossfire. They're still modernizing and bringing forward the multiplayer elements, and then Remedy is making the campaign, which Crossfire's never had a campaign. So Crossfire X, one of their big things was, oh, well, we know that Western audiences like aiming down the sights with their guns, so we added that. And like that's one of the big modernizations. They're also remaking it from the ground up in Unreal 4, so it looks really good also. And then Remedy can't really say anything about the campaign, but like, you know, they from my discussions with Remedy about this was they were talking about how they want to make it so it still feels like a Remedy experience, which is weird because like, you know, it's
telekinesis.
It's more of like a realistic military first-person shooter. It looks more like Counter-Strike than it does Max Payne.
Exactly.
So,
well, it has a flashlight in it. That's what they're going to go with. That's that's the thread that brings it all together.
So they're like, yeah, we really had to like, because they have to work within that universe that's been established by Smilegate, the developer, and they're like, yeah, we had to do like a little bit of soul searching to be like, what does a Remedy experience in a universe such as this mean? And I was like, well, what does it mean? And they're like, oh, we can't say.
I mean, it definitely
one of those.
it definitely files under the like, hey, this big shooter game from Asia is coming to the U.S. Who else would do the single player, right? I mean, it seems
so
like
obvious.
your very last guess on what that would be.
Exactly.
So that is exciting. There were a bunch of games announced. A lot of them were like, hey, these are games that already exist on PC that are coming over, like Rust, Kart Rider Drift.
Another big game in Asia that's coming over.
Yeah, and Planet Coaster, which I believe is already out. And so there was a lot of that kind of like games that were out there. Did you get a chance to play any of these games?
I played Kart Rider Drift. It plays like a fun kart racing game. The drifting definitely deserves the marquee status that it got there because like it is so integral to that. Like you really do have to like just like
it's like Crash Team Racing.
Turn on the drift and like just turn into those corners because. And it's more effective than like any other drifting mechanic I've ever seen in a racing game, where like it really pulls you into those corners when you.
Well, it's actually giving you speed. I mean, that's the one thing kart games tend to do, as opposed to like you losing speed because you're drifting. It's actually giving you speed
but
because
like
you're doing it.
It really like rips you around those corners. So like it's an aptly named game. I'm saying. So I played like there's item mode, which is like kind of more traditional like Mario Kart style experience where you can get like rockets, you can get like a thing that chases after the first place person like a blue shell.
Huh, weird, never heard of that.
You can drop a banana behind you to make somebody slide.
Wait, an actual banana?
Yeah, there is a banana.
They're just straight up like,
If
what else
anybody
are we
out
gonna
there
do?
has any ideas where this inspiration for this game comes from, please let us know
then there was,
at podcast@GameInformer.com because we're really confused
There
on
was
this
a
one.
drift mode, which was fun, where you don't really have any items, but drifting fills your boost meter, and then like you can boost that way. So
cool.
It was fun. I mean, it's a fun little. I think it's free to play, and they're gonna have like seasonal content. I think it seemed like they were gonna be. They wouldn't talk about like actual like monetization methods for that game, but it seemed like they were kind of taking inspiration from Fortnite's model, where it's like you can earn
a lot of
the stuff,
customization. Yeah,
a lot of customization. They're adding new like kart characters and new drivers and new karts and new skins and emotes and all that fun stuff. So
yeah, a lot of these games, at least in my kind of quick like just putting it through my head, I was like, these are games they're collecting to put on Game Pass. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? That
seems that way.
You know that I mean that are good, fun additions that add new genres to explore on Game Pass. So and things like Planet Coaster, which is those games have always had their own kind of fun sim. Like it's fun to play around in those worlds, right? So like
theme park.
They're good solid additions, I think, to that along the way. And Rust has been a huge hit on PC for a long time.
Sure.
So for it coming to console, I think is going to be an interesting addition as well.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of games that they're putting on Game Pass, like I mean, there's titles that have been on Xbox for a long time, like Witcher 3, but like still like one of the greatest RPGs ever.
Yes,
getting that on Game Pass is huge. And then they're bringing every Final Fantasy game from 7 on, aside from I think 11 and 14, the MMOs. Those are going on Game Pass, and then they're bringing the Yakuza series. So
Wow.
0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2 are going to be on Game Pass starting next year, which, I mean, that's the first time they've been on Xbox consoles, and that's an incredible series. So,
I mean, those 2 series alone is, months of gameplay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a ton of, especially
like a
Final
challenge.
Fantasy.
And,
That's a lot. I mean, if you want to go back and play those, you know what I mean? But I mean, that's a lot of games.
And Phil also said, Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, said that that was a result of him basically going over to Japan and meeting with these teams and like saying, hey, what do we need to do to get these not only on Xbox, but also on Game Pass? And he did say that he spoke with Yoshida, the director of Final Fantasy 14, and they're trying to figure out some way to bring 14 over to Xbox One, which would be big for. I mean, that game has a pretty dedicated fan base.
No, definitely.
So to get that to a whole new console would be awesome. They're just figuring out like, all right, it's an MMO, so it has a lot more moving parts than like bringing like, oh, it's a offline RPG. That's easier to port than an MMO.
Yeah, it all makes me think. I was actually thinking that as I was watching this today, and this is going to be like, there's not going to be that many people that get this reference, but there was a time when Peter Moore was like, we're all in on PC at Microsoft, and like how they were going to like really like play behind like PC and like and that it mattered, and they were going to like really support it as a platform along with Xbox. And I was, as a PC player myself, I was like, this is really exciting. And it just went nowhere, right? Like it just fell off the face of the earth. And this is the first time I really feel like Microsoft is very committed as a group to like really bridging that gap between PC and console and getting those experiences and kind of blurring those lines between them. Part of that, obviously, I think is because technology and the consoles themselves are kind of essentially more little PCs now than anything else. Or maybe I should say more like standardized PCs. I shouldn't say little. I mean, they definitely have a lot of power in them.
Uh-huh.
But I think that's all kind of come up. But I love to see Microsoft really get behind those two things.
Well, they have so many initiatives that are like that just started this generation. Like, you know, there's Game Pass, and then that gives you access to an enormous library of games. But then they also introduced that to PC earlier this year. And if you have Game Pass on Xbox One, now you have Game Pass on PC as well. And that makes it so like I went home last night and downloaded Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition on my PC. And it's cool to, like, because I'm primarily a console player, I can still like make that leap over to PC if I want to and enjoy all these benefits. And like Xbox Play Anywhere. Like when I bought Forza Horizon 4 on Xbox One, I went over to my PC and it's like, hey, do you want to download this on your PC as well? And you could do cross save and cross play and all that other good stuff. So it's really cool that they are investing in their other platforms. If you think about it, Windows 10 is another huge part of Microsoft's business.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Why not have them share some of that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And I still feel like, just like anyone knows, I mean, I still feel like, the first party studio still has work to catch up versus like Nintendo or Sony. But
For sure.
you definitely cannot deny on the service front, Microsoft is second to none. You know what I mean? As far as the services go right
Absolutely.
now, they're definitely killing on the service front.
And they are making strides, obviously, about the first party stuff. They
the
went on
purchases,
that acquisition spree over the past like 18 months with, adding everything from Ninja Theory and Obsidian and In Exile to like Double Fine, which is incredible.
Oh no, I think that's but we have yet to see the fruits of those
course,
labors.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So they get bonus points for going down that path. I'm not ready to give them like way to go quite yet, but I do think they're on the right path.
I did speak to Matt Booty, who's the head of Xbox Game Studios, and he was saying that pretty much starting in, because he was also saying we're still very early in this process. It takes multiple years to make a video game nowadays, so we're going to start seeing the fruits of the labor, as you mentioned, next year. And he's like, our goal is starting in spring of 2020. That every 3 months we have a first-party title that's coming to not only Xbox One but also Game Pass. So that's
cool.
So that's ambitious, especially given their recent track record.
Yeah. I mean, I love to hear it, and I'm definitely excited about it. I think there's, it's like anything. I think there's always like I like to see the rubber hit the road a little bit on all those kind of things, but I think it's exciting, and I think to your point, let's get back to some of those games. Bleeding Edge was another game that was there. Was that playable this time?
It was, and I mean it I love the aesthetics around it. I think
That's
that
the
it's,
Ninja
That's
Theory shooter.
that's the Ninja
It's
Theory.
like a hero shooter type thing.
4v4 third-person team game, I believe was the exact quote that was given during the presentation. But yeah, Ninja Theory is one of theirs.
I like Ninja Theory a lot. This just always felt like a weird game for them to tap into.
Especially coming off of Hellblade.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. What'd you think of it?
It looks cool. I actually didn't get a chance to play this.
Oh no!
I didn't, but I think it looks like fun. I don't know if it's available right now because I was scrolling through like what's available on Game Pass, and Bleeding Edge was available to download, so I downloaded it last night and like went to bed. But
It's a cool story.
Okay, you knew you were doing XO19 podcast today.
yeah. And I went to bed.
You just went to bed.
I had to be well rested for the podcast, which of course I wasn't because for some reason this trip hit me like a ton of bricks with the jet lag.
that's
I'm
true.
still waking up at 6:30.
Oh, well, that's a bummer.
Yeah,
It's
so-
never fun.
Yeah, it sucks that you had to go to Europe.
But I did play Minecraft Dungeons.
Oh, okay. What'd you think?
So it's fun. Like it's a fun, like accessible, approachable Diablo-like game. I went around. It's weird being in the Minecraft world and not having anything to do with like building or like tearing down stuff or crafting.
But it's
Like,
a cute world. It's a fun world.
It is. Yeah, you run around like you're like, oh, there's some zombies to kill or giant spiders to fight. So it's like recognizable foes if you're like a Minecraft fan. And
My nieces love Minecraft, but they mostly love building. But I've been
Yeah.
like thinking about this. I wonder if this would be an interesting gateway for them.
Yeah,
to
the
be like,
gateway to,
"Hey,
like,
here's
other
Minecraft,
games."
which you love, but play a game I want to play.
I think that's what it's going to be mostly. Is like there's all these people who all they play is Minecraft. And it's like, oh, maybe I'll try that out. I don't know if like Telltale's Minecraft game had any.
But I mean, I
crossover there.
love the fact that good job by Microsoft to be like, let's get them playing Diablo type games.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like that's a good call. Like,
And
because
then-
that's a great like just as a genre is great. You know,
Jeff
so-
Quirk would just go straight to the source.
Yeah,
but
he would.
it's
Yeah,
nice to have the.
his 3-year-old or whatever. Yeah. So I think that's a cool move.
Yeah, and I like that like there's no classes in it, which is like it kind
It's classless?
It's very classless.
Yeah.
It spits in the face of in classless fashion. It spits
Yeah.
in the face of like kind of like those genre conventions
Yeah.
of like, all right, I'm going to be the tank. All right, I'm going to be the support. And it's like, no, you can just like pick up any weapon and suddenly your gameplay style changes. So like I was shooting arrows with like fireworks going off as I was hitting enemies, and then like I broke out a sword, so I was like slashing at people, and then I had a knife, it was better, but like it was a lot more close range. So you had to be a little bit more agile with like getting up in the enemy's faces in order to
Yeah.
take it. So it was nice to. I mean, I only played it for like 20 minutes. I want to say was my demo, but yeah, it was great to kind of get a feel for what they're going for with that, and the combat felt good, and like there were some minor puzzles to solve. So yeah.
Excellent. So, what about? I saw a couple ones that I thought were interesting, like West of Dead that had Ron Perlman in it. That's out in beta now.
Yeah, that was really interesting looking. Like it was, I didn't even know that was going to be announced until the stream. 'Cause
Until
I
the stream,
got,
yeah.
I got pre-briefed on some stuff, but like so
They
I
added
set
that
up
one
a
in there
and
kinda last
I think
second.
they kind of slid that in there, and that was one where like I didn't get to play it, but I saw somebody playing it in xCloud,
Okay.
which was interesting. It doesn't seem like the best like test case for xCloud if you're like looking at like latency and stuff, but
Well, okay, hold on. We just said that it worked. I don't understand why
if
we
you're-
still have that like it's not going to work. I mean, this is an action game. It can't be that hard.
yeah. But like the proof is still in the pudding for xCloud, right? They're still in preview or beta.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like you're still trying to figure out like, all right, we've already had this conversation.
I know. I just thought it was interesting. Just like that it was like I think. I just think that that's like a technology thing that like we know there's like hurdles in the way, but like the technology seems to work in the ideal conditions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other games? So there was an Age of Empires.
Yeah. So Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition launched, and then they showed the first like gameplay of Age of Empires 4, which people have been waiting on, I think, for 2 years now.
Yeah.
And it looks great. Like it's in the medieval time period. So
that age.
Yes, that
Yeah,
age,
great.
that age of that empire. So yeah, I mean, they didn't really reveal a whole lot, but
Are you an Age of Empires guy?
I'm not really, but
Yeah.
I like I said, I downloaded 2, and I'm gonna really try to like give it a go.
It's one of my blind spots as well. I like RTS, but like I've never touched that
I
series.
enjoy
so.
I enjoy like the RTS genre that I've played of it. Like again, I was primarily a console gamer. Like Halo Wars is a lot of fun, like the first one.
I asked Dan Tack this morning. I was like, "Hey, did you play the Age of Empires definitive, the new one?" He's like, "Why would I do that?" I was like, "I don't know. I thought maybe you'd check it out." I was like it's just the old game though. I was like, "Well, yeah, but I don't know. Just making conversation."
What I saw, so I actually checked out Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition at Gamescom, and it looks great. And they like redid the AI from the ground up, and like the characters like behave a lot more like strategically. Like they don't run around like idiots now. Apparently, it's like the way they described it was like the original Age 2. Like the AI was just a bunch of buffoons, and now like we've got it.
We figured it
We've
out.
Really got this down. Guys.
They're real people.
Yeah, I mean, I will admit, MOBAs have really changed my perspective on RTS. You know what I mean, and my excitement level for them, and they've certainly been one of those kind of. They've turned into a fringe genre, which is so weird because there was a time when they were literally like just like the
That was
biggest
the
thing.
PC genre.
Yeah, and so it's still kind of crazy to me. So I mean, I hope people can get engaged and have a lot of fun with those kind of things.
Yeah, and they would kind of hint a little bit because I spoke with the creative director of the Age of Empires series, and then also Shannon Loftus, who is the studio head at World's Edge, which is the newly founded / announced Age of Empires focused studio. And they're talking about like, MOBAs kind of spun off of RTSs and then became this huge thing. And I asked them like, all right, well, are there ways that like the genres, like the new genres that have formed out of RTSs and the other like genres that have even formed out of those, like battle chess or auto chess. Is going to inspire this, like almost like how Tomb Raider, the original Tomb Raider, inspired Uncharted, and then when Tomb Raider went away and came back, guess what inspired it? Uncharted inspired Tomb Raider. Are we going to see some of that circle of inspiration in this? And we
will see hero battleships that there's 5 of them going and to fight in the Nexus.
They made it seem like there's going to be quite a bit of that, and they hinted at a mode that is actually historically inspired. And somebody else at Gamescom, when I was speaking with them about different modes coming to the Age of Empires series, said that auto chess is probably going to be some sort of inspiration.
The most likely,
yeah. So I think from talking to both of them at different points, I think that there's probably going to be an auto chess inspired mode in this.
Interesting.
And it's also going to work historically. I don't know how that's going to work, but
I remember all that from my history books about auto
chess.
Yeah, it's always been a big part of American history and world history. I can't think of a time.
Nothing more American than battle chess.
Well, do we miss anything from it was any big news? So what about Scarlet?
Still pretty tight-lipped, but I mean, obviously you can expect that all these initiatives, the Play Anywhere, the backwards compatibility, the Game Pass and xCloud, all these things that Microsoft has really started like establishing this generation are going to be foundational for Scarlet. I did ask Phil to close out the interview if he could give me one name that Scarlet is not going to be called. Since he obviously wasn't going to tell me what it's actually going to be called.
No, he was not.
He told me that it's not going to be called Xbox 720.
Well, there we go.
So congratulations.
We fixed the world right there.
We did. He said you could mark that right off the list.
Do you want to make a bet that it'll be called like Xbox Scarlet? What are the chances it's just called that?
I mean, I don't think that they're going to... Have they ever done that? Like...
I don't know. Well,
Project
who's to say they couldn't, though?
Project Scorpio was Xbox One or Xbox One X. Project Natal was Kinect, right?
And Ultra 64 just ended up being N64.
Nintendo 64.
Which I always liked Ultra better.
I like Ultra
liked
64 a lot.
I did too.
Especially going from Super Nintendo to Ultra 64.
It felt like the right answer there.
And then GameCube.
Well, that's that
Also,
one's different. But
Nintendo Revolution was a much better name than Wii.
Yeah, I don't think they call it Scarlet. By the way, I think it's going to have a different name. I think we can scratch both those names off the list. But okay, how about this? Let's play this game as we finish out this segment. What would you call the new Xbox?
What would I call it? I'd probably go with the Apple way and just call it Xbox again.
Go back? Just go back?
Just like Xbox is just Xbox from now on. You know?
Xbox 11 Pro.
I have the Xbox 2020 version, and then in 2022 they can make the new Xbox 2022 or whatever.
Yeah, so that you just kind of lose those all together. It's
Yeah.
just like it's the service, it's not the platform.
I mean, I think that's where they're going to eventually trend, but whether or not they do it this round, I don't know. But that would be my best guess.
Yeah, it's a good guess.
Yeah, and
that.
their
the
whole
reasoning.
thing is like moving beyond consoles. Like Xbox is not just the name of this piece of plastic on your shelf anymore. It's now like the entire suite of
It's a lifestyle,
their
man.
gaming.
Yeah.
Everything, like it's xCloud, it's Game Pass, it's Windows 10 gaming, and
But what would you?
What would I call it?
What would you call it?
definitely not Xbox 2. Like I'm seeing everybody speculate it's going to be called, or like I saw somebody say they should just like call it Xbox 5 just to match PS5.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Which I think that would be weird to skip past like 4, because I guess that's technically what the next Xbox would be called chronologically if you want to do that game.
They should call it the PS6.
Oh,
That way
why
you're,
not? Yeah.
you're buying one for the
That's
holidays. You're like,
really
oh, this
good.
one looks nice.
Make the Switch today.
Xbox Revolution.
But you haven't made a guess yet.
I don't know though. Like
You don't
I'm
have a
not-
guess.
That's not what guesses are.
Yeah, I mean,
guesses
like-
are guesses because
Yeah.
you don't know.
Man.
Anything. Okay, here I'm going to
Say
answer
a
for
word.
you. It's the Xbox Shea. Vader.
Xbox Shea.
Vader, you have something for us? Do you have a guess?
Besides PS6,
Besides PS6, which
I would call
Actually,
it the
you-
Brian
you-
box personally.
you may have won this segment. Yes, but
The ex Brian.
Yeah.
okay. We're really stumping you on this
Yeah,
one.
I don't like. I've thought about it too, and I just really have no idea what a good name for. See, Sony was smart about it and just calling it PS2, PS3, PS4, PS5. Man,
So you're calling Microsoft idiots.
no, I'm
The naming system.
maybe they're more creative.
I mean, I will say it, Xbox One threw me for a loop.
That did,
Y-
yeah.
you know what I mean? And it makes this name game
was
much
a weird
more
choice of that.
like more difficult because you're like, if they'll do that,
Exactly. Like
what won't they do?
even thinking back to like, I mean, we know like Xbox 360, like, and now Xbox One sounds so natural just saying it, but like Xbox 360, what the hell does that even mean?
It's everywhere. It's 360.
It's encompassing your
Yeah.
entire existence.
And I think at the time, like ESPN had done like an ESPN 360. There was a bunch of things doing It was like a hot marketing term at the time that they did it. I remember that being a thing. And I actually think I agree with Ben a lot here. I think going back to just Xbox could be a move for them, though. I think they'll with having already had Xbox and had the One.
Maybe Xbox
Someone in
10.
marketing will be like, we have to put something on
That's
it,
true.
right? You know, that they have to put something like some kind of moniker on it.
But I could see Phil Spencer. The more I think about it, the more I could see him like walking out with like the Xbox One logo, and then it just shrinks to say Xbox and be like introducing the next wave.
Next box, I've always laughed at
Next box.
but they won't do that either.
I hope
X.
not.
X Cube.
Well, it seems like they've used, like you could call it the Xbox X or something like that, which they've already done. I
Yeah.
feel like, you know what I mean? Like all those things they've kind of
Or
used.
what about
or
just
S,
X?
just X all
Just
on its
X.
own. I mean,
Hey, you
Aside
finally
from-
made a guess.
yeah,
aside from-
exactly.
Hey,
It
good
took
job,
a while.
Brian.
Yeah, exactly. Congratulations. And with that, thank you both for being on for this segment. It was a very interesting conversation. Up next, we are going to talk Shenmue with Reiner and someone else that I need to go upstairs and trick into talking about Shenmue.
Hope it's not me.
I'm looking at you, Ben Rees.
Oh, no.
I'm looking at you. Because you know what? You went to Japan
That's right.
and you saw Shenmue. You know what? You know what? I think you're in big trouble. I think you're in the
no.
next
You
segment.
gave Yu Suzuki a foot rub.
Oh, I have a doctor's appointment. What time is it?
All right. Well, thanks everybody. We'll be back in the next segment. Cheers. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the second segment of the Game Informer Show. I am joined by Andy Reiner,
Hello, sir.
and I suckered Ben Reeves into
Yeah.
coming back.
Tried to run away, but you locked me in.
Here you are. And I would like to throw out a big shout out to, and I forgot to introduce in the first segment, Leo Vader, amazing producer of the show. Couldn't do it without him in the box. How you doing, Leo?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, Last segment we talked about a lot of things. This one, we're gonna narrow it down. We're gonna talk about one thing. One thing. And that one thing is Shenmue III. Which is okay, let's be realistic. The first question is like, who thought this was ever going to happen, right? This was never going to happen, right?
I don't even think Sony did when they announced it on their stage at E3.
Oh, when they announced the Kickstarter?
The Kickstarter.
Yeah.
They're like, Shenmue 3?
Yeah.
Kickstarter?
And
We're not even going to back it, but we'll announce it.
And then to follow that up, and I'm paraphrasing here, but Reiner and I, a lot of times Reiner and I sit together and we make smart ass comments throughout
The press conferences.
any press conferences. And sometimes we're able to tweet them out. A lot of times the Wi-Fi or the cellular service is not good enough for us to get all our jokes out there. But I do think we did look at each other in this particular moment and say, like, I think they were asking for like $3 million or something. We're like, that's not nearly enough money to make a Shenmue game.
Because the first one cost, what?
For sure.
$60 million or something?
You're just like, how do you make a sequel with this amount of money? Like, I just don't even, it just didn't even, immediately I was like, this does not compute. It just seems like impossible. Now, then I said, well, hey, there's a lot of new tools, that are available. Maybe I'm just not thinking about it right, that there's a new way to do it. There's a new way to scale and create games. So, let's hope it's possible. Because there's definitely, and I'm going to admit this right now, I'm not one of the Shenmue people. Like there were people like back in the day that were like, this game is, do you realize you can walk into the shop and play like an arcade game? And I was like, don't care. You know what I mean? And they were like, you could go and work, move, run this forklift. And I was like, don't care. For me. How were you guys on the original? Did you guys play the original games?
Yeah, I was very excited about the game, the first game before it came out. Like I was kind of like watching that, reading articles about it because it sounded so cool. And then I played it, and I think for the time, I still think for the time it was interesting and new. Like imagine a world before GTA 3.
Yeah.
Like that's your concept of like what an open world game does. Like it is just neat to walk around this world and investigate this small city.
Did you play Shenmue 2 as well?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I hunted that one down. And so for a time I was like a fan. I think my enthusiasm has definitely waned over the years.
Yeah. And Reiner?
I mean, right there with Reeves when you first started hearing about it, like virtual fighter style combat in this like breathing, living city. And you're like, okay, this is kind of cool. You could play old classic arcade games. And I was like, this just sounds different. And it ended up being very different. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
But in being unique, there was a lot of problems that arose. And I was hoping they'd fix those in the sequel, and they didn't. And here we are with Shenmue 3.
Which has this game. It has a following. It has people that adore this game in its series for its for those things that I'm being dismissive about. I'm just being an asshole, I guess, to some degree. But that's just my personal taste, and I just want to make sure I was clear on that. But like I understand there's a lot of people that find that serenity a genius to it.
They can overlook the clunk and slowness for those innovative elements that work.
Yes.
Right? Like those innovative elements are very cool. Mm-hmm. Like people on a schedule, like moving around the city. It really does feel like a place. You get to know everyone, right? Like that's kind of cool. But just the tedium to do it, that wanes on me a little too much. Like, and Shenmue 3 is a direct continuation. It's like time had not passed since Shenmue 2 came out.
Was there a cliffhanger in Shenmue 2 that we needed answered?
Yeah.
Well, there was a cliffhanger for sure.
There was.
So that story was not finished.
Yeah, so the story is Ryu is still out hunting for his father's killer, like revenge story, right?
Right.
So he ends up going to China, tracking down Landy, this guy he's looking for, and
Who killed his father.
Yeah, meets up with Shenhua, and they're together trying to solve this riddle with these kind of two discs, right? And it ends with them in a cave, right?
Yeah.
This one picks up with them in the cave, and you see what happens next.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's a good way to start it.
Yeah, so it is perfect continuation, but also in time not passing, the game has not evolved any. They just took that blueprint and were like, let's just make it the same. There are a couple of kind of improvements to speed up the process of traveling from one point to another. You could fast travel when there's like a big story beat. Not always though. But there's not a lot of stuff like that. It is very clunky still, slow moving. The dialogue. It's
very
in one
cringeworthy.
conversation.
So all right, I gotta ask this. So is it a homage, any kind of thing? Is it like giving like this is what made the original games interesting and special, and we're doing that again, or do you really feel like that it's a disservice?
I think it's cool how it lines up with the other ones. Like if you have the collection, all three of them feel exactly the same.
Yeah.
But at the same time, games have evolved a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, 14 years when this Kickstarter started since the launch of Shenmue 2, some stuff should have improved.
Yeah.
And they did a couple things, but like a lot of the game, you're like, whoa, how did this pass certification? Or, like why didn't anybody say, let's fix this or make this smoother?
Yeah.
Like there's things there that are just intentional holdovers from the Dreamcast. Like they were stubborn. Like, no, we cannot change anything. We want to keep it the same for fans.
I don't think it's an homage. Exactly. I don't think it's an homage as much as it's like Yu Suzuki, the creator, is trying to give fans exactly what they want or what they say they want.
A continuation of the original,
Yeah.
regardless of,
Right.
of the blemishes or anything along the way.
Now it looks a lot better. The world is stunning, right? Like I think the world artist did a great job. There's some pop in of characters and stuff, but when you just sit and look at it from a distance, like coming down a hill, it's like that looks really nice.
Yeah, they have some good art team designers there, but outside of the visuals, like the game feels like it was pulled out of fell through time out of a portal or something from 1999. It's really weird how like archaic. Just it feels like even the fighting has been smoothed over. It's not as hard, but it still just feels a little stiff.
Yeah.
The dialogue, the story, everything just feels really.
I kind of, you know what? I gotta tell you, I kind of love that this is like a weird time capsule.
It's like an undercover comedy game in a way, because we were just doing a new gameplay today, which I believe is up now, so you can go watch it. And it's just like, it's funny. It's like a game. If you played the originals, like it's almost worth get some friends and play this, because you might find it interesting and amusing. It's certainly interesting.
Yeah, I was laughing because it's like you were talking about the budget of the game being less, and it's like, okay, they got to add mini games because that's kind of a hallmark element of Shenmue, where it's like you train and stuff. But one of the training mini games is he finds this kind of wooden training dummy kind of thing, with the sticks out of it that you can hit, and he's like, oh, horse style. And what horse style is he stands next to it and he squats and he just goes like this.
Yeah.
And he just holds that position. And you as the player just have to hit X to keep him down. Like just tap X so his arms are on this green line. And you sit there for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
It's a while.
Just like this. But I was like, that's the Kickstarter budget minigame. There's nothing happening. He's just sitting there.
Well, and you said like what they raised. They
I don't
were
remember,
asking
yeah.
for
It
3 or
was-
something.
yeah, yeah.
They
It
raised
was like
6.
I don't remember what the number was, but
6.8. It was like a
didn't-
record, right?
It felt like it was not going to be enough.
But this
Yeah.
game wasn't made on 6 million either. Like Deep Silver had to come in and help with the budget and
that's good.
finalize
Yeah,
the game.
yeah.
But it's just like kind of a display of like how much games take to make.
Yeah.
It's like 6 million does not stretch very far if you're trying to make a game,
Yeah.
a big open world game.
And I know a lot of people were hoping this would be like, okay, we're getting the final chapter. This is it. Yu Suzuki planned like 7 chapters out of the gate or 14. I don't remember what it was. But he's sticking to that script. There's no conclusion here. He was very upfront of like, I want to make more.
I mean, once again, I'm not a fan, but I kind of love the idea that if people who are fans can keep contributing and can make it where he can get to like 7 and he keeps making these games that are all still in the same universe over a period. I mean, that's kind of an amazing thing if they were able to pull it off.
And I think it was right around 70,000 backers on Kickstarter for that 6.8 million or whatever. But if they can stay dedicated, and who knows how much was contributed outside of that, right, to help finish it. But I would like to see the series keep going. Even though I'm not having a super great time with it, there are times where I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I like this series, right?
Well, it sounds extremely difficult to review, right? Just because of...
Wouldn't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
It was almost you. Magically being me.
Sorry about that.
Because it's one of those things. It's hard sometimes when you try to be critical about a game, not to go down this path entirely, but intention is important, and sometimes you're like, this is just bad modern design, but the intention was to capture the original thing. You know what I mean? So
it's not like they tried to innovate. They're just like, it's the same game series. We're keeping it the same. You know what I mean? Like, it looks better because you have an HD TV, but we're not changing our design at all.
Yeah. And there's an audience for that. We went out to visit the studio a couple months ago. We did a feature on it, which is now up online if you want to read that. And we were talking to the creator, Yu Suzuki, and he was like, yeah, there was a guy who came into our office yesterday to test the game out, and he went nuts for like picking herbs. Like there's a herb picking minigame where you just go and pick up herbs. And he did it for like 2 hours and picked all the herbs on this field. Like he was just
into it, yeah.
And like I'm making the game for fans like that who want to just like sit there in this world and do mundane tasks. Like they really enjoy that.
And as
so
you said,
awesome.
when you visit him, Yu Suzuki said he doesn't look at other games. And
Yeah.
he
not a
clearly
huge
looked
gamer.
at Shenmue 2 and
Yeah.
stuck to that script. There are things that are kind of unforgivable, though, in the dialogue and how it can be repeated. Like if you go to a store, it's like, are you here to shop? And then you hit the button to shop, and it's like, are you here to shop? And you're like, how did this make it past?
Yeah.
You know, the testers.
Well, that dialogue, you were slacking me messages about this dialogue system. It feels like they took pieces of dialogue and then stitched them together after they wrote the script. It's like we recorded all the dialogue and then how do we make a script out of it? Because
Yeah.
they'll approach somebody and be like, hey, have you seen a sailor? And he's like, huh? What's that? It's like, oh, no, thank you. Like, what? This isn't a real conversation.
Yeah, it's like
I
just
asked you a
random
question.
responses
Yeah.
that they thought maybe matched up, but
Yeah.
a lot of times it doesn't. You're just like, I guess I'll just go over here now. Like,
Yeah.
I have no idea what this guy was trying to tell me. But I am having some fun. Like I said, like it is such a weird throwback. Usually, you know, like when Res Evil came back, they completely redid it, modernized it for Res Evil 2, which is fantastic. But this, I think, is just as cool in
Yeah.
that they stuck to their guns and they're like, if we ever finish this series, it's all going to feel the same. You know, it'll look better as time goes on, but it really seems like they just want it to be, you know, this complete chronicle of, you know, this DNA strand that they created back in the 90s on Dreamcast, which is, it's wild.
That is totally wild. And like I said, I kind of love that if fans can support it and keep it going forward, that kind of like relationship between you, like you said, like making that game specifically for the person that wants to come in and be like, oh, I'm here to check out the game. I'm just going to pick Herb for 2 hours, which I can't compute as being like the way of like, if I was a big fan and someone showed me their new game, I'd be like, I want to look at this and I want to look at this, not be like, oh, cool, I can do that. I'm going to do just that for the entire time. But that's amazing.
Yeah, I think I tweeted like, this game's making me cry for all the wrong reasons. And it's moments like that where it's like, I'm not into that, but I kind of have to make money.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my God, I'm chopping wood again.
It's you know.
But that's life, right?
That's
like,
life. Yeah,
sometimes you don't
that's-
like your job.
That's the Shenmue, right?
Yeah,
That's the
Shenmue has like such a unique place in gaming history. Like whether you like it or not, like
Yeah.
it's such a unique thing. And like the fact that this game can exist now in 2019, like it's kind of neat, right? Like whether you like it
Yeah.
or not, like it's neat that this thing can come back.
Yeah. But it's driven by the fans. You know, that's the coolest part of that is they really wanted it and they delivered.
And I'd like to say again, great jackets.
Yeah.
Right? Like really
Rio's jacket.
Yeah. I mean like top notch jacket work.
Does it work if you don't have the Band-Aid on though? Are you going to look as cool?
Yeah, probably. Well, you know, that's a look. But you know, I did look good. That's super interesting. So, I mean, how far are you in the game? How are you feeling?
I think I'm like almost halfway.
about halfway.
So the whole first part of the act of the game is he rolls into the small town with Shenmue, Rio does, and he just starts asking people, have you seen any thugs? That line, like he asks everybody.
Right, singular focus.
I know, but it's like it goes on for like 5 hours of looking for thugs.
Man
Have
with
you
a
seen
mission.
the six-fingered man?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then it goes different places. I won't spoil it for people,
Yeah,
but
certainly.
it's very Shenmue. I'll
Yeah.
say that much.
Yeah, well, that's cool. All right. Well, thank you both. I think this you've inspired me here that I'm gonna watch someone play this on like Twitch.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Kind of
Well, you
thing.
can
a lot
watch
of
on
people played it,
GameInformer.com.
Are you guys gonna play the whole thing?
Well, I don't know the
Oh,
whole
no.
thing, but we have a new gameplay today.
I mean, I
so-
watched a new playing gameplay today, but I mean, I was thinking I want to
whole
watch
thing.
like I want to watch. I want to watch the reactions of someone in real time just because it sounds.
We were laughing our butts off on
Yeah.
that new gameplay today. Leo especially. I think that really hit the spot for him.
Yeah, it's very funny to watch. I don't think I'd want to play it, but I may watch more of it.
Yeah. I mean, you sure you don't want to play it?
I'm pretty sure.
You're pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it conceptually. I like the pitch of it, of exploring that small town. But in execution, I don't know. It's a little too B-movie for me to really get invested in, maybe. I don't know. It's kind of not my tone.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
You bet.
Appreciate the Shenmue talk. That was fun.
Yeah.
What we have coming up next, we're going to do community emails and then follow that up with kind of our Gamer of the Year talk with some new members of the team and just kind of go forward with that I think that I've been really enjoying them as talking points here. And we've been actually yesterday we did our first kind of meeting for top 50 and kind of things like that to give you a little behind the scenes. So it's a lot of the talk around here. So it's I think it's good to get that conversation surfaced a little bit here while it's top of mind for everybody. And we just had the Game Awards were announced. So everyone's talking about nominees and everything like that. So I think there's a lot to talk about.
A lot of snubs there from Jeff Keighley.
Well, it's the jury, and it's just
I
a wide.
blame Keighley.
Do you blame Keighley?
Yeah.
Oh well,
Yeah.
he's going to go right.
Personal.
Go right.
Yep.
Go right for Keighley. All right. Well, you heard it here first. Well.
Maybe last.
We'll be right back to do some community emails. Thanks. Hello and welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I am Andy McNamara, your host. I am joined by Dan Tack,
Hello, everybody.
Alex Stadnick,
Greetings, friends.
Joe Juba,
Hello.
and in the box, Leo Vader. How you doing back there, Leo?
Great. Feeling tall.
Feeling tall. So, inside baseball for a moment here. I need to see Leo because I want to interact with Leo more. I think you want me to interact with Leo more. We want more Leo on the show, period. Like, just period. And Andy's dumb, and I keep forgetting. So he is sitting he's got added a pad to his chair so I can see Leo's face. He's not
making
hidden
eye
behind
contact
things.
right now.
We are, which is changing the game.
Yeah.
This is going to change the game. This is a good improvement to the show, and I'm thrilled about this.
And it happened mid-episode, which
It
is
did.
very exciting.
Leo, I wish you would have done one of those like malicious compliance things where you just gotten a ridiculously tall chair.
Like a lifeguard chair.
Yeah, exactly.
I would actually, if he sat like right there, like next to and he was like this ominous figure, I think that would be amazing. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Whatever solution we get, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah.
And so I want to start out before we go to this is the community email segment. First of all, podcast at GameInformer.com. Please send your questions for next week. We love hearing them. It's been a great kind of interesting dialogue for me to read it and be a part of this. So I'm enjoying it. So please keep coming with your comments and coming with your new questions. I really enjoy it. But I do want to do some housekeeping before we go to that thing, and that is that I screwed some things up. Number one, I did not mention during the XO19 talk, I don't know how we forgot, but there's Tell Me Why from Don't Nod, which I just skipped over my notes. Brian Shea didn't bring it up. I like to blame Brian since he's not here to
Seems like
defend
everyone
himself.
does.
But I want to bring that out there. They've got a new game. They're just finishing up. Basically, Life is Strange.
Yeah, final episode of that should be out in December.
And so starting up this new thing, Tell Me Why, which is an interesting plot, and then it's going to be the first game that has a trans lead character.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's the first game that does that, but it's a game that is like putting its trans character in those issues sort of front and center of the narrative. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's cool, and I want to make sure I mention that because I was dumb and I totally forgot, and I'm stupid sometimes.
Yeah, it looks cool.
And so next I wanted to mention, this is a quick thing, just a shout out. I always liked Amy Hennig. She's awesome, and she joined Skydance. And she's coming back into making games again, and it's been a little break, and I'm thrilled about that.
Yeah.
So I'm just throwing that out. And then finally, the good news, Alex, ex-intern. We have fired him as an intern. We were like, you are the worst intern we have ever had.
It was a brutal transition.
It was, but the reason we did that is that he has joined us. He's actually now one of us. He has joined Game Informer. He is, yes, exciting.
Thank you.
We are thrilled to have him. Boy, was it unbelievable that you were here and had the skill set you had. And by the way, that's not why we hired you. I want to be very clear, but it was like it could not have been better given the circumstances that we were under. And I think I should point this out. Game Informer has been like the team has been working very, very hard to keep up with the content. And when and we're thrilled with Ben Hansen and all the Game Informer guys are at min-max. We think that's cool. We're super excited for it and understand completely why Ben went on. But when we were down to one video guy, we were panicked. And so when you were able to fill in as an intern and help us, and we saw that you had the skills and you really showed that off, we were, number one, so thankful for you doing that, and then really lucky to be able to bring you on board. So we're thrilled about that. And I should bring up too, like, I'm very proud. I should point out too, all the Game Informer staff and the work they've done over the last couple months. Holiday season is very, very busy. The team has worked very, very hard. So welcome aboard.
Thank
in
you.
the middle of all our crazy crunch, you get to be a part of it.
I love it.
Lucky you. Well, we're excited to have you be a part of the team.
Thank you. I'm very, very excited to be here.
So welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So back to the community stuff, and I have more housekeeping because I screwed up a lot of things that we're going to get to in a little bit as well. But we're going to start off with a question, so we're actually doing the segment we're supposed to be doing. So, hey Andy and the Dandy Squad.
Oh,
Huh.
okay.
I like that. I like
I can
that.
handle that. Yeah.
Okay. What is the biggest indie game ever made? I'm talking games made by an independent studio. You decide what defines an indie game: budget, scale, studio, publisher status? Question mark. Loving the show. Keep up the good work. James Smith from the void where Nintendo executives are banished to. That's an interesting place to be.
What-
odd.
So I will start this conversation a little bit with just like, this is a topic we talk about a lot at Game Informer, and it's one that is really, really hard to define. Joe, it's great that we have a great panel here for this, because I think one thing with having the PC editor, you see a lot of games that come from a lot of different spots and places. And Joe, review editor, we're always kind of talking these things over. And Alex, he's new, so now he has to be subjected to this conversation that he was going to have at some point or
Regardless,
another.
Yeah.
Right? And then Leo in his lifeguard chair can just laugh at us from above. So,
God, is that you?
Joe.
Biggest lifeguard chair of all time.
Joe.
Yeah.
So, like, I'll let you start this conversation rather than me. So this is a whopper.
Yeah. So I think we talk about this a lot in terms of like, I mean, like as the question brings up, how do you even define indie, right?
Yes.
Is that part of where a game falls in the traditional publisher model? Well, that's tricky to talk about these days because publishers are getting bigger and bigger. So, and truly independent ones are harder to find.
Yes, I think a good quick example, just to interrupt you, would be something like Insomniac, who was independent, now just recently purchased by Sony.
Yeah.
But like all their games were published by huge publishers, Microsoft, Sony.
Exactly. Even though Insomniac up until recently was like by that definition, an indie developer.
Indie developer.
I don't think there's any stretch that you would say that adheres to the spirit of what people mean when they say indie game.
Yeah, like that indie game Spider-Man. Man, I'm really glad they pulled that together and got that
Spider-Man
thing. And they
needed a
just
win.
I mean that's the kind of scale that we're talking about. So sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. Well, no. So yeah, I mean, so like that's a question that you have a question of like how. Like the size of the studio, like if it's a small studio, does that kind of automatically make it indie? But what if it's in a small studio that has ties to a larger? So like, yeah, all of those sorts of things. This is a long way to talk around the fact, though, that if you look at the sort of intersection of all the possible definitions, I think you'd have a hard time arguing that anything other than Minecraft is the biggest indie game.
Yeah, to answer that question. Yeah. I mean, it seems like the one that has maybe not the biggest as far as budget, because obviously it was not that big a budget, but the one that has gone and become and ballooned into the biggest thing ever, I think it is definitely Minecraft. Yeah. But I do love the argument a bit because there's also that thing too, I think we talked about recently as we were filling out our nominations for the Game Awards, was one that was like, hey, what's the fresh, new, hot indie? And one of the things in there was like, all these people have made another game in some way, shape, or form, or they like move on. So it like a lot of the things in game development is really hard to like nail down when you're like, it is only one thing. Mm-hmm. And I also think it's important to note that like indie games, which we tend to, and I think that's unfortunate, go like put that label on, and it's a game, right? And I wish I could stop even myself from calling things indie games or or big games to some degree, because I do think sometimes it's unfair a little bit to like the spirit of them, because sometimes it's like expensive game, not expensive game.
Yeah.
To some degree, given that the rules are hard to define.
Yeah, and that's another fuzzy area is like there's cost, but then there's also a kind of, I guess, like I said before, there's kind of a spirit to it, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot of what you'd call an indie game would be something that uses like experimental mechanics, or that is like really uses narrative to dive into like a kind of story that you just don't see in mainstream stuff. So like there's just so many things rolled into that
There is.
yeah, that it's really tough to like put your finger down on like this is how we define indie games.
For anyone that's just listening to the show, Dan looks pained next to me during this conversation.
I do not.
What are your thoughts,
I
Dan?
was thinking. That's
What are your that's
thinking
how
is
you think.
painful.
Okay.
Thinking is pain. Life is pain. All right. Today I think it's very different than when I think of what is an indie game.
Yeah.
I instantly go to the hundreds and hundreds of titles. Pixel graphics, self-published kind of entries on Steam. It's like, for me, that's like, okay, that's a clear example of an indie, right?
Yep.
They don't have a publisher. They didn't even. But then you still have like these indie specific publishers like Devolver or Raw Fury, or these guys that specifically look for high profile indie titles to publish. But I guess in my mind, if I wanted like a very simple raw definition, it's probably self-made and self-published by a small team, and that's that can be broken. And defining an indie game is a very odd thing.
I mean, would you say that that's a very small percentage now that don't get some kind of publisher help along the way? Or do you
Yeah.
think that's still like pretty, like, is that pretty doable in today's environment?
It still happens, but you need like lightning. You need community lightning to get the word out about the game, because otherwise it's just they go, the visibility and discoverability are the big issues for all those indie dev teams that may have a great game, but it's never going to get seen by anybody because it's just going to get lost in the shuffle with all those releases on Steam. I'm talking specifically of the PC market.
Yeah, well, and mobile,
Sure.
same thing. There's like a ton of games that
sure.
are indie.
For every Disco Elysium that gets out there, that's published by the studio. There are just hundreds of them that no one even finds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny too because you think about like Super Meat Boy or something like that, which I think about as always like classically as like, those guys did it indie, you know what I mean, and like all their games, but they were moved on to be a part of other groups, right? I mean,
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's weird because I definitely put them in my mind as indie, which I think is adding to the confusion here. By the way, this is a confusing question, and we never thought we would answer it, but it is one that is constantly brought up because we'll talk about that and be like, well, that's an indie game, and you're like, is it?
Yeah.
How about you, Alex? What do you think?
I guess when you first, and this may be off track, so if it is, you can just
That's okay.
bop me over the head. When you asked the question of what is like the biggest indie game, and maybe it's just when I grew up with, because Minecraft's obviously top dog. It's like
Yeah.
when people ask me what my favorite movie is this year, it's probably Endgame. It's kind of like meh, like duh, but like for me, I think about this like the first Summer of Arcade on Xbox Arcade and the impact that had. I felt like on console indies. So like, and forgive me if not all of these were in there, but like I think of Castle Crashers, Shadow Complex,
Braid was that year.
Braid, and Limbo. Limbo, I think, to me, is one of those games that showed what an indie studio could do storytelling-wise.
Yeah.
And I think those type of games propelled it on for Sony and Microsoft to go, okay, there's a market here. We can utilize this. So
I mean,
that's what my
important games like Don't Fart. What was that one that you laughed at for like ever? that was the same year, wasn't it? Wasn't it the same
I don't know. That was
the same era? Wasn't it?
It's an indie game, Xbox Live indie game. That's all we should be considering for this category, by the way.
Don't fart.
That was a game that you were like dying, right?
The one you're thinking of, I think there is a game called Don't Fart.
Try Not to Fart?
Yeah, or Try Not to Fart. It was like holding a bunch of buttons down. That's not the one. The one that you're thinking of that had me like crying in the bullpen because I was laughing so hard was like a Flash game called Don't Shit Your Pants.
Wow, it's so weird that sang to you, Joe.
Yeah,
I you learn something new about Joe every day.
That's a good core philosophy.
Yeah, exactly.
Older and wiser and less entertained by scatological humor now.
How about you, Leo?
Stardew Valley had a big disparity between number
yeah.
of people working on it and success for
Wow,
sure.
that is pretty. I mean, that's indie when you do it all yourself, right? You got help with music. Was that what maybe, or he did the music
He did
himself?
a lot of. I mean, I know he had some. There was some sort of
Like one
assistance,
thing, but
like,
it was minor. Like whatever assistance he got along the way.
Are we sure we're not thinking of Undertale? As for like the minor assistance, I don't know if.
Yeah, I guess
Stardew Valley
You
guy
know, he
had
might
any-
be right.
I thought he did. Yeah, you might be right. Now I'm getting it all confused in my head because I'm thinking of Axiom Verge too. Tom Happ, who did
Who did? I mean, which that's
pretty much that whole thing himself, also. I think.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
And I think all the titles that we've mentioned, do define what we can fit into a nice indie bucket at this point.
Yeah.
For whatever that is.
For whatever
Yeah.
use it has, by the way, too, because it's just like I always hope that that those great games just go to the surface, right? And there's certainly I think even this year as we go, and we'll talk about this later, like Game of the Year, like there's always these games that every year I go, that was a great game that just nobody played, right?
Yeah.
It just happens. So thank you, by the way. That was a great question, James Smith from the Banished Void of Nintendo Executives. Thank you very much for that. Just to go back to the housekeeping, now that we did a little bit of what our goal was here, and I first was that a lot of feedback I got was that last week when we did the video game Mount Rushmore, a lot of people said we took too long to get there, and the reason I want to do this during this segment and bring this up is because you guys work here, you're new, but we take too long to get to answers for everything.
I'd like to think that we take our time and examine the topic.
Yeah,
We are thorough.
We are thorough. We definitely are thorough. So
We are too thorough.
So while we may have wasted your time in that podcast listening to us just really, really, really grind on that answer, the reason it does is because we try to make sure we take the time to think things through. It happens, and you're right. It probably did take too long. Some people said we were like trying to just fit Laura in there, and I would argue Laura is great, and that's the kind of arguments we need to have. She was defining throughout the history of games, and that's why a thing like that is hard, and that's why finding 4 and picking your Mount Rushmore is difficult, and it's going to take us time. And if you didn't know that things like that were going to take us time, welcome to Game Informer.
I'm finding out. Yeah.
This is what we do.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share that out there a little bit, and then I do have a little bit of kind of sad news that I wanted to bring up in the show, which was Brad McQuaid, co-creator of EverQuest. He passed away in the last little bit, and I wanted to give him first a rip. Met him numerous times. EverQuest for me was a defining game. I know for Dan as well. We'd both gotten a chance to talk to him and do things with him over time. So it's very sad to hear about his passing. He had a new game he was working on. He worked on Vanguard as well. But in the world of MMOs, which I'm a huge fan of, you see things in every game today that came from that EverQuest group and what they innovated about, and I think changed a lot about games. And I think that the things that he did are going to reverberate for centuries.
I mean, he was one of the co-creators of EverQuest,
Yes,
right?
I mean it's
Just a huge impact on the entire game and the entire industry. If you really, World of Warcraft, MMOs as a concept probably wouldn't even have... they were a thing.
Yeah,
but
they were
would not
Meridian
have
was there, but yeah.
Right. EverQuest was the tipping point where it became, a lifestyle gaming choice for that time, and then it developed into what it is today. It's insane to think back how much profoundly that game changed my life and my career choices and all that stuff.
Well, even the friends that you guys still have.
Yes,
from that stuff, right?
I still talk to all those people that
So
I was
yeah.
friends with in that game, and I've continued playing games and in some cases working with them over the years, and it's just fascinating how that all stemmed from EverQuest, which if you look at today, you're like, wow, I don't get it, and I don't think you can get it anymore. It's
a time and place.
It really was a time and place kind of thing, and it
place.
was just a new way to explore gaming worlds that I don't know. I can't see it happening again like that, but I'm sure maybe another development. But it was crazy, just absolutely crazy. The impact it's had on me.
Yeah, it's so sad story, but just wanted to give a shout out to everybody out there and Brad's family and friends and everyone that he worked with. Certainly, we're thinking of you in that regard. And then once again, just circling back to people, just adding onto last week's show. We talked about Grief a little bit last week and games that we liked in Grief, and I got a couple of notes from people both through Twitter, sent me some notes, and through podcast at GameInformer.com. And they mentioned 2 other games, which was Celeste and Hellblade, which we did not mention in the segment, and I just thought they were worth mentioning, that they are good like Grief games, and like you should check them out if you ever having tough times. They'll get you thinking, they'll get you working through that stuff. So that's the end of housekeeping part 2. Thank you. Good time. Insert time of day. What time of day is it? Good afternoon, GI crew. This is from Nick in Eden Prairie, so he's local. Oh, yeah. There was a time when Game Informer was based in Eden Prairie. I don't know if you know that. A little history.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. So I've played and beaten Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and while I like the game, it sure has a lot of jankiness, which we've discussed on this show. I've discussed on Twitter. We've discussed in a lot of places. It is very real. Texture, enemy pop-in, clipping, camera wackiness, and a few game-breaking bugs that required me to exit out of the game. Yet, as the year-end approaches, I am hearing the game being listed among the contenders for Game of the Year. The question is this: what considerations, if any, do technical issues have in Game Informer's decision for Game of the Year? I think of games like Skyrim or Fallout where they were contenders in the years they launched, but definitely had their fair share of bugs. Thanks. It's again Nick from Eden Prairie. And we are hitting some issues that we talk about a lot around here. And so this is a difficult thing when you look at games. And we were talking about earlier a little bit, just to, you guys probably haven't heard the show since we haven't put it out yet, was that we were talking about that with Shenmue, that they were really trying to like capture the spirit of the game when it was made 20 years ago, and then you have to look at it and like that's a thing you have to like take into consideration. And I think when we look at games of the year, you have to critique the production values of the game and weigh them. I think everyone here playing Star Wars? No, you said you haven't quite got started yet.
I have
Dan.
not started it yet.
I am playing it. Yeah.
You are playing it.
Yes.
All right. Then we're glad I got you on this show.
Sir.
So it's difficult. But Joe, you have played your fair share of janky games, and you've also been in plenty of discussions here at Game Informer about game of your choices.
Yeah.
How does it affect you? Like, you don't have to answer for Game Informer. How does it affect your perception of a game?
Yeah. Okay. So for me personally,
Yes.
It gets into there's a lot of friction in my mind between a kind of experiential assessment of a game and a like technical assessment of a game, right? So I think a good example would be something like you brings up Skyrim. Like Skyrim is a game that, if you look at it just like from an objective technical standpoint, that game had bugs. That game had serious problems. But I'm pretty sure that got my number one game of that year, because when you stack up all of those issues, on some level, they did not drag down the experience I was having enough for me to say like, this is a big problem. You know, like it's not, a game isn't a math test. You don't get, you don't get so many wrong answers and then you just like, you fail it, So it depends on what the bugs are, how severely they impact that experience for you, and just sort of what you as a player are willing to forgive in exchange for the experience you're having.
Yeah, I mean, this sums it up very quickly. I mean, I think it's one of those things it's funny. On the other end of the spectrum, I sometimes say about a game, I go, wow, so many great, like the production value on this game is through the roof. Like it's just like technically perfect, but it's kind of boring, right? You know what I mean? That you can get it on either side of that scale as a way that you look at a game and try to evaluate it. And I think in both cases, they can drag it down. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're trying to evaluate or say like that you enjoyed the experience, right? It's about the ride. It would be, to some degree.
I mean, I think so. I'm enjoying Star Wars a lot, and I mean, I'm not blind to the issues. For me, and I'm new, so like I've been curious how you guys do the game of the year stuff. But for me, if it were a year where like Star Wars was going against God of War, which I think rides that line of being both technically and thematically pretty amazing, then yeah, I don't think it's as much of a conversation. But I feel like this is a year where a lot of games are kind of getting their start, whether it's Fallen Order, Pokemon on the Switch for the first time, Outer Worlds, like they're kind of like, this is the start of these things. And I don't know, maybe I'm willing to give it a little bit more pass if I'm enjoying it that much more. You know what I mean? Because like all those games are hitting me in like, I've been playing Pokemon forever. Outer Worlds, I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I've been missing that kind of game. So like, it's kind of hard. I'm piggybacking off what you said, but like if all those experiences outweigh the occasional clipping or me falling off a ledge, I'm okay with it. And I like that Star Wars it knew that it had some of those, and like if you fall off, it doesn't start you all the way back from like the bonfire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like I think it mitigated some of those issues. But yeah, I heard today, and the other intern Nick was talking about there's
the intern Nick.
Intern Nick. Yeah, intern Nick.
Poor Nick. Just being the one intern.
Nick is great.
Yes.
Nick's
but we only have one now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. He was talking about there's apparently a game-breaking bug where if you hop over a certain like ledge, you need double jump to get it back, and you can't unlock at that point, so you literally have to start it all over. So if like that happened to you, yeah, I could see you not enjoying it as much. So I don't know. I'm new at this game, but
yeah, what was it? Darksiders 2 had a bug that was like game ending kind of thing where you had to start over.
Yeah,
it was that was a game, and it's the other games. That's one that comes to mind where like literally crush your experience bugs, and I think they can be graded as like real bad and just like acceptable. Certainly, to your point.
It's also a really hard thing, and like this is a little more on the when you're reviewing a game versus when you're discussing the game of the year candidates a little bit. But you can only ever speak to the experience that you personally have with a game.
Yep.
Right. So let's say you're playing Darksiders 2, and you get a game breaking bug, and that bug only happens to 0.05% of players.
Yeah, it did not happen to me on my playthrough.
Yeah, it didn't happen to me on mine, but like I know Jeff Cork got hosed by it. So it's like you can only speak to your experience with it. So if you have a game-breaking bug, like that's your experience, and you write your review to that.
No.
And I think that's when we talk about games of the year, if someone has one of those type experiences, they will be very vocal about how angry they are about that game and about that bug and how it ruined the experience for them. Or, I played games like sometimes we're reviewing them early, and it's deleted my entire save, right? Which is not necessarily like a production bug, but was like a bug that happened in a playthrough that I've been trying to do. And it's real hard to get over. Do you know what I mean? You're like, I have to redo the first 6 hours of these games. And let me tell you, the first time as a player, you understand this, when you're like, oh, great, a tutorial on how to open a door. Cool. But you get through it. When you do it the second time, you're like, oh my God, get me out of here. I mean, like, so some of those things that are maybe minor annoyances the first time through become major annoyances the second time through, especially when you're like stacking it up like that. So they can be very annoying. Yeah, but I do think it's something you weigh. But they can be overcome. Maybe is the best way to put that.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I think the time that they come into play the most would be something like, let's say that we're having last year's discussion for Game of the Year again.
Yeah.
And between God of War and Red Dead, one of them was significantly hampered by technical problems.
Yeah.
I think that in a case like that, when we were so divided in our discussion,
when we got to the end and we were really looking at all the minor details,
I think that's something that would have helped to tip the scale. As it was, I mean, I think those games are pretty equivalent on that front also.
I would agree.
But I like the other thing that is tricky about it for me is I know people really like this heavily quantifiable version of game assessment.
Yeah.
Right? People like to know, well, what percentage do graphics figure in and how important are bugs? And like, it's not just a question of comparing apples and oranges. Like when you're doing the end of the year, you've got a whole produce section of very different things that you're trying to balance and weigh. And you can't just say, well, an orange is 8 points and an apple is 8.5 points. And
and hopefully you'll get that from our the final segment, which we're continuing this week, which would be these Game of the Year talks, which I think is interesting in that, someone will go, I think this is the Game of the Year, and we would have given it a 7. right? And that's okay, right? I like that you're right, that you know what I mean, that for different people, different experiences, different scores, everything like that, I think is all of note. Dan or Leo, either of you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, it's been really interesting, and I agree with Joe a lot. It's about the experience. Like for instance, I got a couple that just came to mind. Like with Bloodborne,
Yes.
the load times and some other technical issues were one of the factors that led me to score it a 9.75 instead of a 10, and those did impact my play, severely. But then you take something else like PUBG, where there's all kinds of bugs, right? Cars go flying into the sky. You just get back up on it. It doesn't matter. You just reload and you're in another game. And it's like there are varying degrees. And again, these are not. I don't think every technical assessment is comparable to another one.
Yeah.
Some games can get away with a lot more, and others it's greatly impactful on the experience. So at the end of the day, it really does come down to how much it does affect your play experience.
It can even become part of the charm.
Yeah.
It can.
Yeah.
It absolutely can.
Jeff was talking or was it 2 weeks ago? I don't know. Time flies here. Where in Red Dead 2, it was like the path that like wagons would just start on fire and people would just start on fire.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like crazy
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Or I look at a game like Deadly Premonition, which is just like janky in all kinds of different ways.
Yeah.
And yet somehow it all comes together to create like a theme of jankiness that feels consistent and part of the story almost.
And if you're listening, you should understand that Joe's face lights up very, very. He gets very animated when he talks about Deadly Premonition. I just want to make sure everyone knows that.
Sequel's
Just
coming
in
to
case,
Switch.
Yeah, I know you're excited, and that's a great point. And the funny thing too is sometimes I have a bunch of. Like, I get all gripey when I'm playing a game, and I'm like, oh, it does this, and this doesn't work, and this doesn't work. And then a week later, I go, wow, that was a great game. And I've forgotten all those things that they just kind of, they go away, is another thing, too, which is, it's easy to complain about things in the present in that regard. And Leo.
Yeah, it's all been said pretty much. I think there is a big difference between Jedi Fallen Order's bugs being distracting mostly versus like Fallout 4 at launch, having to constantly reload your save to get around quests that are just broken and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. Well, I think that's one of those challenges. An interesting conversation. I am going to bring up this next question, which is still on the Star Wars theme. Which this is from John from Richland, Washington, which he's saying that Star Wars is getting a lot of attention. It has amazing soundtrack, charming characters, good story, and looks amazing. It's only held back by technical issue and at times sloppy combat. It seems to grab from several big games that have come out recently, but hasn't quite mastered any of them. Most notably, it feels a lot like Sekiro in build and combat.
I wish I would have played Jedi, and I'm getting around to that. I promise.
Yes.
I can speak to Sekiro.
Yes,
it's
you
awesome.
can, and also in Souls games in general. But I'm going to finish with it. I liked that pause there.
Okay.
Dramatic.
Now Star Wars is getting a lot of talk about Game of the Year. And since this has been a theme, we're going to go ahead and go down that. So, already. Personally, Sekiro was a better game overall. The combat and level design are superior and is more fun to play. My question is this. Do you think Star Wars will beat out Sekiro at the end of the year because Sekiro came out at the beginning of this year and the difficulty stopped a lot of people from playing it? So, to sum up a little bit here is that, like, will the accessibility and like kind of license and love of Star Wars, even though it's not as clean as Sekiro, and also the time and space between when they came out, give an advantage to Star Wars?
100%.
Sorry. I love it. The new guy steps up.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, that's all right. Well, I completely disagree with that. I mean, I think it's going to be different once you're here for a while too. I think.
Oh, snap!
You don't dare step on Dane Tax.
I think that
Getting sunned right now.
no, it's a really common misconception that the games earlier in the year just kind of get forgotten as time goes on, and I think that for those of us who are doing this, like that we don't forget about it. All right,
Yeah.
that's locked in there, and it's discussed often.
Is that but is that for us or do you think for everyone? Because I actually sometimes
for
I
everyone,
feel
it's
like
different.
sometimes I feel like I do, and I'm not dissing on anybody, by the way. Sometimes I look and I go like, I think people forgot this game. It comes to my mind where I feel like we spend a lot of time just
Right.
like when we talk about those other things, we talk about them too much. We try very hard to not let that happen, but I think you both could be right.
I guess, and my definitive statement was more on the Star Wars end of it than it was the early part of the year.
Backtrack away.
Yeah.
Welcome. Welcome.
I think people are so hungry for a universal Star Wars thing, whether it's movies, TV, or games, that everyone can be like, yes, we all love this. Like, because I think
So saying even with its technical issues, it would be higher and can be higher or could win a Game of the Year over Sekiro because of that.
I think so. And I think accessibility has a huge piece of it. I know a lot of people who like loved the look and feel of Sekiro, but like couldn't get past the first couple bosses. And I'm included in that. Like, I love that game. But at a certain point, I got so hung up, then other stuff came out that I kind of pushed it aside. And that's me. That's not a statement on the game. I think that game is incredible, but I think because Star Wars is such a popular thing, I think people are looking to celebrate that more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dan, before you answer, I want to point out, Dan beats these games when there are no guides, when there is nothing online.
It's
and I just want to point
Don't
this out.
remind me.
It impresses me, and I think it's worth noting and giving Dan a little kudos on it before he answers the question, that he does that, and he's done that with multiple Dark Souls games, and like it is. And the funny thing, you'll be like, Dan will be like, I only have like a day and a half left to get my review done. And you'll be like, that guy's gonna die. You know what I mean? Like, and he pulls it out, and it's always amazing. So kudos to you before you answer, but please continue. I wanted to give you a little.
Thank you for
juice
that.
there.
Hey, I appreciate that. I'm never going to say no to that.
If you ever need more time and we don't hit review on time, that's okay, Dan.
I think he liked. By the way, he likes the pain.
I would rather-
I think he likes the pain.
It's sort of like a race. It's not painful. It's like it's a very interesting pressure point to put on because the embargoes in those games are pretty fast usually,
are.
and it's just like, all right, there's something to just like locking yourself into that, and you know you're going to play it for like 12 hours a day, and it's just and sort of it's more of it becomes one of those, you know, I could get into the whole philosophies behind how I approach Dark Souls titles and stuff like that. This
Another
sort of-
episode. We've got lots
Exactly.
of episodes.
That's-
We should do
wow,
that.
that's an
though.
interesting segment.
I think it would be.
Yeah,
Be interested in that.
All right, so we'll skip that for now.
Yeah.
And we'll go back to, I was merely providing like the perspective, I guess, of how I think this question was aimed at us rather
Yes.
than,
Yeah.
I completely agree that for the general, for a standard consumer, the stuff in the earlier part of the year can fall off of the memory block, as it may be. But, so I'd love to be able to give the comparison right now of Sekiro and Star Wars, but I haven't played Star Wars yet. But I can say that I will obviously be championing Sekiro for categories and nominations during our discussions. That's pretty obvious, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, I love the Star Wars world because it's Star Wars, but the thing that they really nail it from Software is that they create individual worlds that are really unique. I feel like, I mean, maybe I'm not watching enough anime to have their like reference, but like every time I'm in one of their worlds, it has a flavor to it. And it's always kind of unique. I mean, obviously, I know with the sequels they're less unique, but like Sekiro did a really good job of giving this kind of samurai story, and their combat's tough to beat, and mostly it has to do not with just like, which I do think Star Wars gets right, which is like, you know, I press A, it does this. I press B, it does this. It's more things that like the enemies and the way that they interact with you, the way they show what they're going to do, and the frames that are in place and how you beat them, and the approaches and the strategies that you need to deal with them are next level.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that in my view, they really take to another level. And I haven't played Star Wars on the hardest level, and maybe that starts to show at some point. But I've definitely had some troubles, like even on normal, where I've been frustrated with fighting 3 guys and managing multiple attackers and things like that. That has been a little frustrating, and to me, it doesn't feel as solid. So I would agree. I think if in a general like poll, Star Wars will probably win because it's going to get more people engaged. But I think I would definitely argue along the front that Sekiro it might be the better game.
And From games are almost always technical masterpieces. Like, and
I mean, that's not true. I mean, like, as someone who loves it, that is absolutely
I
true.
thought we have a feud.
I mean, that's not a feud. That's just like, you could, I mean,
Like,
gosh, just go on the internet and type in, like, you know, hitboxes or any,
There is a level of polish there, though, that is...
They do a good job.
absolutely.
yeah, that's not there in Jedi, I would say.
Yeah, maybe we're answering the previous question a little bit, which is why I put these two together. That like you have to start looking at those, like, do those issues get in the way, right? Of Star Wars.
To be clear, I'm not trying to, like, shut you down or call you out or
No,
anything.
you're good.
It's just-
I love it. We're going to continue this next week.
Yeah.
And so I think that I think that's a great question. Thank you very much. We appreciate it, John. So the last question in our segment here is going to be a fun one. We're gonna argue less about how we do things at Game Informer.
I like fun.
Love the show, and I enjoy listening to you guys every week. My question has a scenario attached to it. So remember earlier when I said we spend too much time coming? Just a quick.
If something's a scenario, we've got some time in front of us.
We've got some time in front of us. That's correct. You are in charge of one area of the newest video game museum, and you are tasked to fill it with the top 5 or 10. We're going to go with 5 video game weapons in all of video game history. So we're looking for here top 5 video game weapons of all time. What weapons do you pick and why? One of my favorite weapons, Gunblade. I don't know if you've ever heard of this Final Fantasy thing. I don't know. I don't know. It sounds familiar. I remember playing the demo of FF7 and being blown away at using the Gunblade and how great of a concept it was. Thanks again for all you guys do. Robbie from Smithville, Mississippi. Thank you, Robbie. Appreciate the question. So
That'd be FF8.
I was also.
sorry. I'm sorry.
I was puzzled at that.
Okay, I'm sorry. He has 8 there and then 7 on the second one. So I maybe should have edited that along the way. But yes. Thank you, Joe. That's why you're here.
That's why I'm
For
here.
your expertise.
If you want someone to really get down to the details on various Final Fantasies, you let me know.
So, greatest weapons. And while you mull this over, I'm going to throw out my pick. I'm going to start. I'm doing a really poor job as a host here. But I think one of the greatest weapons is the shotgun from Doom. That's just so I'm throwing that out there as my first entry as far as in the discussion. It does have to be on like we still get to decide and we still get to mull this over. But I feel like the shotgun from Doom is a time and place and a thing that we've all been trying to capture.
So this is Mount Rushmore again, except with weapons.
Yeah, it kind of is. It kind of is.
Yeah.
And you know what?
And it's going to be twice as long.
Hey, if you keep sending emails with easy content and a way to fill up the time on this thing, I'm gonna take it.
So just are we selecting our favorites, or do we, or the industry impact? How are we weighing any of this?
What weapons do you pick and why? I'm
Okay.
not here to give you the rules.
All right,
I'm saying
okay.
it's our museum.
All right.
We have a museum now, and we get to put 5 or 10, but we're putting 5 in it. What 5 do we put in it?
Fart in a jar, Saints Row the Third.
Fart in a jar.
Fart in a jar is real good. That's just the upgraded version of something else, though, right?
Oh, is it?
I think. Oh no, I mean it's in there.
Yeah,
It's
still
in
gotta be in there.
But I think it's like an upgraded.
Just a cupped fart to a fart in a jar?
Right.
I feel like it's like the final, like the super upgrade to a grenade or something like that. It becomes just a fart in a jar. Yeah, I mean it's a good idea.
Is that okay? So that is a weapon. So that would be, but that's more of a grenade. But grenade's a weapon.
That's a weapon.
Yeah,
Weapon.
okay,
Yeah,
grenade's a
that
weapon.
counts.
Sure. Yeah. Like I said, we're going to overanalyze everything. That's what we do.
So here's a question: what about things that are not video game specific but appear in video games? For instance, lightsabers, which I think are unquestionably top 5 weapon material, except it's from a movie franchise that they just put into a game.
I don't think they'd be in a museum about weapons, though, you know? They don't really have... They're not really core to video games.
But not like the fart in the jar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
My
just
answer
like-
was really smart and actually made a lot of sense. So if we could try to go for something like that.
I mean, I'm not against it. I think it's fun to be able to like have. I mean, I think our love of lightsabers comes from movies, but I think they're. I mean, I like the noise and hitting things with a lightsaber is half the fun of most of the Star Wars games, right?
Yeah, that is true. For people who like behind the curtain Game Informer stuff, by the way, this is very much the kind of conversation we have
this is very
when
much
it's
the
deciding
conversation.
on different top 10 lists.
Yes.
and
Are
stuff
we
like
deciding
that.
our favorites or industry impact? That question comes up every single day.
Oh my
the
God,
time.
every time.
It's,
all the
it's an
time.
important question.
We could make, we make those Venn diagrams every once in a while where we make fun of a game. We should make one where we make fun of ourselves, which is the questions that we ask and the routes that we go through because we do it over and over again, and yet we do it. That's what we do. Any other? Come on, there's got to be.
so like-
Yeah, sure. I got one. The 725 from Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Oh God!
That's my joke. The real one.
Yeah.
The real one is the whirligig saw from Bloodborne.
Oh,
I know that I've said that one on the show before, but it's still that giant pizza cutting thing that just slam it into a chunk of monster flesh and very satisfying results.
That's some imagery right there. I would say either Blades of Chaos or the axe from God of War.
Ooh, Blades of Chaos is a good one.
The feel of those in even the original God of War games and then the last year's game is some of my favorite weaponry.
I can get down with that. What about what's the why am I spacing? What's the Half-Life? Where you shot the blades and cut things in half.
Gravity
Gravity gun
gun.
is what everyone talks about
Yeah.
from Half-Life, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the one.
I mean, I think, given that tomorrow or earlier today, which we'll have up on the site, sorry, Lynn, they're going to have the announcement about Half-Life Alyx coming to VR, which I'm just going to mention quickly, but we should have information on the site. But we were not able to fit it into this podcast, which of course pains me. It's a different thing. But yeah, Gravity Gun, it's a good choice, right?
Yeah.
So kind of in a similar Valve game thing, do you think Portal Gun counts as a weapon?
Yep. Because
It has offensive capabilities, but it's
Correct.
like, I mean, like, it's more like a tool that you can use. It's like
It's like a hammer. It puts in nails, but you could kill somebody with it.
Or
Yeah.
let's say you have a saw, right? Like I could go to the floor above us and saw above this podcast table right now and crush us and we die. But like, is that a weapon or is that a tool?
because you do use it as a weapon, in situations, I think we can consider
It also has
that.
gun in the name. But I
Well,
guess
that's
so
not
does glue
necessarily-
gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or bubble gun,
Okay, all right, fair enough. Let's tell you what, for the sake of this conversation and time,
Yeah. Okay.
no portal gun.
Okay.
But wow, or maybe we should discuss it more.
No, that's too bad. I liked it, Joe, for what it's worth.
Okay. I'm gonna put it on.
I
our
wrote
list
it down like the second you said it, but now I think that we're talking about it. Is it a tool or is it a gun? I think we could let's classify it as a tool.
Okay. I argued myself
Or a
out
weapon.
of that
You
one.
did.
So for it to be a weapon, it has to explicitly be used to attack things.
I guess. I mean,
the
what a
purpose-
weird rule. I feel like we're writing down these weird definitions like in progress.
No, I think that makes sense. Now? So this is one. It's not one that I like super love personally, but I think it's in terms of like iconic industry thing that you'd want in a museum. Scorpion Spear from Mortal Kombat.
Oh, that's a good choice, Jade. You were made for this. So, Gravity Gun, Shotgun Doom. We have Whirly Gig Saw,
Yep.
Blades of Chaos, Scorpions Throw, and Fart in a Jar. Just don't want to forget the fart in a jar.
I love the idea of crafting the fart in the jar on like a mountain in South Dakota or a hill in South Dakota.
This is not Mount Rushmore.
Oh, okay.
Even
That's
though
right. Sorry.
it's very close. Because this is 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we,
That's what we're at.
That's right.
No, well, we have 5, but I mean, like, is that the end of the discussion? Are we going to actually, like, after? Do we have any other entries?
there are probably so many that are so obvious. that we're missing, like-
This is one of the things we do when we come up with a
Oh, is
list
look
idea.
on the internet? Yeah.
Is you have to be like, what am I forgetting? So
Well,
like,
I mean,
the Mega Man X Buster probably is.
Oh, that's a good
pretty
one.
good
one.
That's a good one. I also trying to think, like, just like, I'm spacing on the name, but in Halo, the
I was
one.
gonna say
Needler.
Needler.
Yeah,
I would say Energy Sword.
yeah,
Up
Energy
there.
Sword. Yeah,
Neither.
those are so
the
great.
Master Sword from Zelda.
Oh,
Yeah, but I mean, that's just a sword.
It is just kind of. I
Wow.
mean,
The master.
wow.
Wow.
But you know what? I love how quickly you killed that. You were just like, ah!
I mean,
Took it down.
You're not going to get me fighting for the Master Sword.
I actually
I
kind
won't
of
die
agree.
on
I
that
think
hill.
Master Sword's like not. It's just a
It's
sword.
cool. It's a
Wow.
sword.
Oh, Hidden Blade from Assassin's Creed.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's, yeah.
that
That is a
awesome.
good one.
You couldn't put it on a museum though. You couldn't even see it.
I also here's one that we can put on the let's wait and see. During the Cyberpunk demo at E3 this year, they have that little nano wire.
Oh yeah.
That little
yeah.
it's kind of like a tiny little electro whip or something that looks real cool.
It did lots of work. Yes.
I think I'm gonna like that one.
Yeah, I would say the Lancer from Gears of War. At
Oh
least
yeah, that is.
visually.
Of course.
Some people may think it's gratuitous, but that you can't.
That's what
think
was
of
great
Gears.
about it.
Yeah, exactly. I liked it. Yeah.
And I still always like to point out, I'm always surprised more people don't steal active reloading, which I still think was one of the greatest things that just.
People still try it. It's always sort of like let's try this and see if it's fun. Oh, nah,
I was a big fan. I was a big fan of that. So those are great additions. The Hidden Blade, the Lancer, all good. And also, God, yeah, that's tough.
Ooh, the Bionic Arm from Bionic Commando. I would say
I think we're dating ourselves a bit, but it's great.
Is that a tool?
You can use
It's
it.
a tool.
Is that a tool?
It is.
It's a tool. It's a
You
tool.
can use it to like you can actively use it to like thump guys in the face with it.
But like 80% in that game is what you're using it for is mobility.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's more of a tool.
What about the bionic arm from Metal Gear Solid 5, the Phantom Pain? You could shoot it out and hit guys with it. And it was incredible.
Yeah, that was. Oh man.
Oh man,
Wasn't even.
you're just
Got him.
baiting Joe right
Yeah.
now.
Well,
You
no,
know
'cause,
that.
like-
Leo is just laughing in the box.
Because like I wasn't even thinking about like some Metal Gear stuff. I think the best Metal Gear weapon is just the trank gun.
It's good, but it's not that. I feel like that falls a little bit into the like. It's just kind of. I don't want to say boring because it is
It's
good.
not boring. You shoot a guy in the face, and then they have hilarious sound effects,
They
right?
do.
When they're just like, all clear. And then they just start snoring immediately.
But that doesn't make. I don't know. That's like the after effect. I tend to be less. I feel like when we've got such great answers here, but maybe sure. I mean, I'll write it down. I'll forget it.
Okay,
later.
it's not making top 5.
It's not making top five, right? I mean, there's lots of great stuff, but that's not. It's a trank gun,
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
right? Like I think we are giving extra points. It feels like for something being unique, right, and like outside the norm. So, all right. Should we try? Should we try to order what we have here, or get rid of what we
think
have?
so.
I think we have enough to do something, right?
Maybe Mario's boots.
And by the
They've
way,
murdered more.
I'm trying to expedite this. If we were putting this in the magazine, we would spend another week on this.
This would take a long time.
There would be a whole email chain on this.
There would
thing.
be. We get
Oh
on
my God.
Slack. We would argue, and we'd print it out. And the thing is, we would talk about it forever, and then it would get to the proofing stage.
Then somebody
And not that which way we go through. We go to black and white stage, and we do a color stage, and they would wait until the final color stage, until someone would walk up and go like, "I hate this list,"
And it would- it would be
it would
me.
start it all over again. Because it never ends. So think of it this way: you mock us for being too long on things. You are getting the quick and easy version of the conversation.
Okay, let's vote.
Let's vote. Okay, so gravity gun, shotgun doom, fart in a jar, whirligig saw, blades of chaos, lancer, hidden blade. Which one of the Halo weapons did we like?
If we're gonna do a Halo weapon, it's gotta be the Needler.
You think it's the needler?
Right?
I don't know.
Where are my Needler fans out there?
That's not top 5.
It's not top 5, I agree.
Okay.
Okay,
If we
screw
were
the
doing a
Needler.
Halo weapon.
Energy Sword is a great
I was-
combination of unique design and really
Yeah.
fun to use.
Yeah. Especially Halo 2 days.
So
Yeah.
energy
Cut
sword
through
higher than
everyone, yeah.
needler?
I would
think so.
personally, but I'm scared Dan Tack is going to attack me.
I don't want to scare you off on, on day
I mean, at
2
this point,
here.
we just have to pick the best Halo one, and then we'll decide whether it makes the list or not. Anyway,
Okay.
Okay, so we'll just go with that. The needler is very unique and a really interesting weapon, especially
Definitely.
the way it removes shield and things like that. And Scorpion's
Scorpion spear. thing.
spear, yeah, and the X Buster we had listed as well.
Yeah.
which kind of doesn't seem as interesting now.
No.
Trying to think of it. I'm trying to visualize the museum setup here. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I like how you're thinking that way.
Yeah, if you're thinking about like what the actual display would look
Right.
like and things that would look cool there, like
Yeah,
Yeah.
you probably need at least one grenade type weapon if we have anything like that
almost
on the list.
something you could really visualize. By the way, and this is the kind of thing you'd go in a museum and go like, why is there just a jar there?
but someone would come in and be like, "That's not art. I can't believe someone got paid to do that.
Yeah.
I could do better than that."
It's just a jar. Someone ate all the Jif and then put the jar out. Yippee skippy.
farted in it.
Yeah. So I mean, gravity guns a slam dunk, right?
Yes. I think that stretches like my generation.
I
your
think that's
guys's.
one that everyone always talks about.
You don't want to be predictable.
I mean, it's just like, yeah, okay, gravity gun. There's a slot gun.
I mean, yeah, just because we can buck that trend right now. We can say that the gravity gun wasn't the best thing that ever happened.
Let's
to you.
let's say the gravity
pass.
gun-
Let's just pass. We'll come back to it.
It's part of a traveling exhibit. It's in a different museum right now. It's not in our exhibit.
You're... All right. Okay. I'm gonna tell you, if you guys fight harder, if fart in the jar makes it,
I mean, Leo's gonna make
and
that happen.
He might. Well, he's in charge of. He can actually like after we all leave, he can just go
edit
into
it.
post production and like have a thing where like, wow, way to win, fart in the jar, and just to put together the whole thing, we'd never know.
I'm replacing every time anybody said a different weapon with fart in the jar again.
So, I mean, he really wields the power here. He is the weapon. So, Shotgun Doom, maybe a little pedestrian, maybe too much history, less interesting.
Yeah,
Every shotgun came from that.
You're super right about it, but like at the same time, it's just a shotgun, right?
It is just a shotgun. And let's not forget Gunblade, by the way, too, where this all started.
Yes.
Which we should make sure I should have that down. So Gunblade,
I think Gunblade's really cool.
I kind of tend to agree. I think Gunblade's a good call.
It's super unique too. That'd be a cool display.
I mean, I'm not quite sure. So it's a gun and a blade?
At the same time, no
You
way.
get it. You
Like a
understand.
sword and a gun. Somebody.
Here's the thing, though. When you're slicing,
Okay.
you also pull the trigger
Wait, what?
to deal extra damage to fire.
Wow,
We got
that
some-
is amazing.
Some real thinkers came.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Wow.
it's so cool. We actually, I have a thing that it's probably up on the site right now, but it's a classic feature that appeared in print a couple months ago, which is an interview with Yoshinori Kitase about just like all kinds of things about Final Fantasy VIII, some like behind the scenes stories. And one of the questions I asked was like, did the idea for the Gunblade, was that just as simple as, hey, let's put a gun and a sword together? Wouldn't that be neat? And he kind of punted the answer a little bit. It was like, that was Tetsuya Nomura's call. He just designed
The answer
it.
is yes.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
answer is
yeah.
yes. That's what it is. That's what it is.
I can see it there though. It's, again, from the museum display approach.
Gunblade is in there.
Yeah.
So that's our first official entry.
Yeah.
Second.
Second. Oh, because wait, what was the other one? Oh, fart in the
He's
jar.
gonna say fart in the
Fart in the
jar.
jar.
Yeah.
The fart just exploded in my face. Actually, is what just happened.
opened the
Yeah,
jar.
I opened the
Opened it
jar.
up, yeah.
I opened it up. I walked right into that.
I think there's no way Blades of Chaos does not make this list.
Sure.
I tend to
Yeah.
agree. I think Blades of Chaos is a truly and we can't talk about things, but spoiler alert. There's a great moment.
There is.
There's a great moment.
Yes,
with that.
there
There's
is.
a great moment. All right, so we have the Whirligig Saw, which they have a lot of really great weapons
I think
in that thing.
that one's exotic enough to make it, but it's up to the rest of the group.
I mean,
I can see it not
it's
making
not a
it too.
gun with a sword.
It's not.
It's just a saw with a stick.
A giant spinning wheel.
Yeah.
All right, it looks like a pizza cutter. You put it into monsters' faces. It's huge.
I like this, but I would not advocate for it before Hidden Blade.
I also want Hidden Blade on the list.
Yeah, I think maybe
I'm okay with
let's go
Hidden
to
Blade.
Hidden
Yeah.
Blade. Definitely Hidden Blade. I think Hidden Blade's iconic, different, and interesting, and there's a lot.
I think if Hidden Blade is 4, then Whirligig is 5, and of the ones that we have so far.
No, I think Lancer should be brought up in this. I think
yeah.
there's a lot of things that, like, I mean, one of the things that Gears did was the Lancer is iconic. It is an iconic weapon.
That's a
And, once again, and by the way, Saw. Apparently, if you put a saw on anything, we're like, oh, Saw, and we go crazy for it.
You got to see. You've seen the Whirligig Saw in action.
Yes.
It's crazy. It's spinning. It's huge.
Have you seen the Lancer in action?
giant
I'm just saying.
chonker.
I'm saying saws work for us. Apparently,
Saws
Saw
are, yeah. Big
they
fan of
work.
saws.
I'm saying
Yeah.
that I think that we already have 2 gun melee weapon combos on the list. I think
You think the Lancer
is
loses out for that
is
one?
number 3 on that list. Not that it's not a great weapon.
Wouldn't have been
And
as
by the way-
agreeable on that if I knew the Lancer was going to take a shot there.
Sucker, you have so much to learn about how these meetings work.
Did I do the right thix
Though Joe did the thing again where he said we're at 4, which he once again was introducing that fart in a jar was already taken care of, which we have not officially discussed. I'd like to point out. We are officially at 3, which is Blades of Chaos, Gunblade, and Hidden Blade are the only 3 that we have all agreed on. Not to say that we won't all agree on fart in the jar, but we are jumping the shark on fart in the jar going a little early. Okay.
Let's take this seriously.
This is important stuff. Okay, so we have X-Buster. We have Energy Sword. We have Scorpion Spear.
See, these are
Whirligig
things-
Saw. Shotgun Doom Gravity Gun. I see that. Once again, I don't know how Gravity Gun is not making it. How is Gravity Gun not making
It's
it?
possibly more fun to use than anything else.
All right, let's get Gravity Gun in there.
Right?
That's something that
There's a reason why everyone talks about it and the
Spans
reason why it's on every
generations, yeah.
list.
Yeah. all
Right?
Well, this is our museum.
yeah.
All right.
Oh, we're gonna, this. By the way, this is on that thing. This is one of the journeys we go through every time.
But yes, let's put it on there.
Okay. Gravity gun.
So that's officially 4.
That's officially 4.
Unofficially 5.
Unofficially 5, yes. Which is what I'm going to bring up right now, which is fart in a jar.
What do you think on that one, Leo?
I think we should go for it.
I'm not against it, but visually on a museum display, I don't think that would work.
Well, it's very meta. You look at it and you think, like any piece of great
I think
art.
it has. I think the fart inside is like a noxious green gas.
Yeah.
That would look kind of cool.
No, or we could put like a light and a little smoke thing that would put in there. Like it's a museum. We can work on
our
it to make
museum.
it more interesting to look at. I mean, it's still just fart in a jar, but yeah. I mean, is there a movement for fart in the jar?
Is that
Yeah.
Afterwards, yeah.
I mean, by the way, I kind of feel like we have to put it on the list just so he won't change the list later. We're kind of a little bit like we're being held hostage, I think.
I'm prepared to filibuster.
Yeah,
I have dinner plans tonight that I will cancel.
All right, so we have to pick one more.
I can't-
Shotgun, fart in the jar, whirligig saw, energy sword, X-Buster, scorpion spear, lancer, portal. Oh, we said no on portal gun. Come on.
We're decided.
These people have things to do, and we are wasting their
in the jar
time.
at this point, doesn't
Does it have
it?
to be
We've
fart in the jar?
talked about
Well,
it so
I've
much.
already gone to town for the whirligig saw. So let's just put that on there. We can all go home.
Wow, you should have seen how dismissive Leo's face was when
Uh-oh.
he did that. Yeah, he was letting it be known.
I guess it's a cute little design.
I mean, hey, you know what? You want to put the fart in the jar in there? It's fine. I can make a fart in a jar.
We know
I can't
we know what you two think now, Joe.
I would go for fart in a jar also, I think.
Alex.
I mean, if this were a serious debate, I would say Lancer. But since it's gone off the rails at this point, fart in the jar.
No,
Fart in
it's
the
a
jar.
serious business.
This is the most serious debate that you're going to have today.
I guess this is my job now. Talking
By
about
the way,
this. Yeah.
if this was going in print, I would be having a conniption right now. But this is the podcast, and we're having fun. We're putting fart in a jar in this museum. And by the way, I'm going to let Dan write the text, like the little plaque that goes beneath. And I expect him to write that this was the dumbest entry in this museum.
This should have been a
It should have been
whirligig.
this. So we like.
Yeah.
So that's my compromise.
Okay.
That's
I
my
do-
compromise.
There is so in all seriousness, though, I think that there is something to be said. Like people really like and remember those like silly weapons, whether it's fart in a jar or like Wabbajack from Elder Scrolls or something, right?
Yeah.
Like those weapons that just do weird, unpredictable, or just amusing things.
Yeah,
Almost like a
people-
goofy gadget because it like makes people throw up. It doesn't just kill them.
Yeah. What was like? There was a land shark or something like that. What was the game that had the shark that would pop up? That was a.
Yeah, it was Saints Row 3 or 4.
I think it was 4.
A
Saints Row
dubstep
4?
gun.
Yeah.
Okay. So all right. Well,
One
a nod to the weird.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
what I said. More than it's a representative entry, more than just a single fart.
It's more
in
than
a
just
jar.
a fart in a
It's more
jar.
than just a
Yes,
fart in a
yes,
jar.
it truly is. Just like this entire episode is more than a fart in the jar. Thank you all. Appreciate your help with community emails. Once again, please, everyone, send your thoughts and your questions to podcast@gameinformer.com. Got another segment. We have I'm going to make another long show. So we have Game of the Year talk coming up, interviews where I'm going to talk to the team about their entries for what they're really looking forward to, what they want to bring up as far as games they want to talk about. But this was a lot of fun, as always. Thank you all, and we'll see you in the next segment. Hello, and welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Andy McNamara, and I'm joined here in the final segment and Game of the Year talk by my wonderful colleagues, Kim Wallace,
Hello.
Brian Shea.
Yep, I'm back.
Yes, and you're back. And Joe Juba is back.
Yep, sorry, me again.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, man.
Kim speaks for the audience.
We really need a soundboard of that, I think. And then we can use it just like it all. Oh, man. And then Leo Vader in the box. How you doing back there, Leo?
So good.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So, all right, we started this last week. It was kind of on a whim, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun last week. We're doing it again this week, which is that this is Game of the Year talk. I'm gonna interview the team here to find out what games have mattered to them this year. Last week we had different selection. I brought a whole new team. But I think we'll continue to bring in new people and continue this conversation over the next month or so. Hopefully, it will continue to go because I think there's a lot of great games to talk about this year and a lot of interesting things going on. So that's the real kind of where we're going.
Oh, can I insert something in there real quick? Actually,
yes.
So, because you say like we'll be doing this throughout the next month, and I think for everyone, there's that. Maybe people watching and listening don't know like how much we're actually playing this time of year.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Like in addition to the stuff we're doing for work, pretty much everyone is like going home and catching up on things they meant to play all year and didn't get a chance to. So all of that's to say, I think I speak for everyone at the table when it's like, these are all opinions in progress. They're not guaranteeing anything.
Oh,
on
yeah.
any,
Like, I have
yeah.
not played Outer Worlds yet. That's how like behind I am right now. Outer Worlds, Fire Emblem, Outer Wilds.
It's one of those things where every year I'm like, I'm going to do better. I'm going to get, caught up. Like, so it's not all at the end of the year. And then
I tried so hard.
Yes,
like the first 6 months.
I always do. And I get so close. And then, other stuff comes up or you get, other review games to do. And it's...
I mean, I love this. This is actually a great example. The anxiety is very real. Like, by the way, I just want you to know that like it is always because when we have our like discussions about game of the year, which is different than that, is that we do try to take everyone's opinions into account of games that we haven't played. But we all know the quickest way to lose an argument is to not have played that game. Is that like someone will be like, well, have you played the game? Well, I think it's the greatest game ever, and like just that kind of goes down that path. And by the way, they're fun, nice fights that we have as we try to come to the list. But that's
mostly.
This is.
What are you talking about? We don't fight. No.
No, we would never. This is really about like what you've played. It's impossible to play every game. I mean, if you go to work, right? But we try to play what we can, and people try to get attracted to games that they like. And this is about understanding what games you love and what have mattered to you this year. We're not crowning. There's no champion here. There's only celebration. Only celebration.
I like it.
Let's start with you, Kim. So do you have like we're adding to a list, so you just have to bring up one game. I don't need all your games. I want you to talk about one game that mattered to you. You can go one that's off the beaten path, one that you're like this is a big one that we need to talk about. You choose. This is about what mattered to you this year.
I'm gonna come out swinging with a big one.
Oh,
Fire Emblem Three Houses.
What is that a big game?
Is that a mobile title?
That was one of those games that I reviewed and I seriously didn't feel like it was work. And I know it's like one of those things where I enjoy a lot of the games I play, but not to the level that I got like totally engaged with that game. I mean,
isn't that game like 90 hours, like 100 hours
yeah,
long?
In fact, I beat the game and then I went back and played another house almost immediately after. So I was just like still gunning for more Fire Emblem. It's got that good mix of I like the strategy-based gameplay and then the social elements that they added was just so great. Everybody who plays it has a house that they are in love with and will defend. Black Eagles over here. It has nothing to do with
the
Pina
Black Hawks.
Yeah, right. Everybody's like, that's why. I'm like,
I didn't make that
no,
connection.
Edelgard's just a cool girl.
So that is the one thing that has made me like, because I've always tried the Fire Emblem games since Awakening, and it's like I enjoy it for like probably 5 to 10 hours, and then I fall off real hard. But that seems like the thing that would keep me coming back is the social elements that you mentioned, just because I love that so much in like Persona.
Yeah, I guess too, I'm missing a core component of what makes those social elements work is that you are essentially playing a teacher and you are teaching your kids how to fight and deal with, situations that might arise during war. So when your student does something you don't like, you feel kind of responsible. Like, did I not instill the right lessons in them? Or should I have made them better in this category of fighting? Because you also can pick their lesson plans and stuff like that. So you really get that, student-teacher relationship.
Gives you a lot of ownership in the game.
Yeah, a lot of ownership. And I just, like, that made that game mean so much to me as you go on. Because I had some stuff happen to me that I was not happy about. But then at the same time, I'm like, I will always have my students' backs. And that's kind of, I stood by them. I let them make their choices. They got to make their own choices at some point.
So, and this is one that I've heard that, like, if you haven't played other Fire Emblem games, that's okay.
Yep.
Anyone can play it and start up down that path. I think it's a little at least for me, when someone says there's a 90-hour strategy game, I think to myself, when does that game hit the point of being way too difficult or getting out of control of scale? Does it manage to keep that?
So for me, I felt like it was an easier Fire Emblem from somebody who's played a lot of the Fire Emblem games, but I actually turned up the difficulty for my second playthrough, and it does get hard towards the end that way, in an annoying way. But other than that, like, there's even the easy mode. You can turn off too. Like, you can decide if you want permadeath on. Personally, I don't want to see a student die. That's like for this one in particular, because I always play usually with permadeath on, and for this one I'm like, I don't know if I can handle losing one of them. It's too much. So
You get to choose. You don't have to.
yeah, so there's like a lot of, but I would say it's very easy they introduce you into all the mechanics super well, and there's nothing that's going to be like too much,
And you didn't just pick a game that you love. You pick a game that's like in your personal game of the year, like top spot kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I was mad when we started talking about nobody brought up Fire Emblem.
I know, I heard you.
This should be in the, we should be talking about this.
I know Brian's been trying to play it. I mean, that's one of those things like, we're all trying. I mean, it would be.
That's a hard one too, to ask somebody like, hey, go play this,
If I played that for like, say, 15 to 20 hours, do you think I would get it?
Yes,
and like why it's so awesome?
You would get it. There's a point in the game that you get in the middle that kind of has a story branch that's really interesting, that I recommend you get to. But you can get to that within like 20 hours. I've seen people who said they completed a house in 35 hours. Like, it took me, I think it was like 65 and that was like at review speed. I was doing as much as I could. So I've heard people who are like, this game took me 80 to get through one house. So I really think it's how thorough you want to be. Like, do you want to talk to all your students after every mission and see if there's new dialogue or ways to you can take your students to have tea. So there's like little things like that.
That's awesome.
Does it have weird, creepy, like pervy student stuff?
A little bit. The tea was the thing I said I didn't like, and I also felt like there does come a point where you can maybe. It is after they graduate, I want to say, so you can like.
You've groomed them first.
Yes, exactly. That's why I don't like it.
That's normal.
But yeah, if you want to, but there's also other teachers you could romance as well. So it's not like you're stuck with one of those, and you don't have to romance anyone either. But what's cool is even if you don't romance anyone, like your students, they built relationships with each other. So when the game ends, it kind of shows you like who maybe got married or started like a business.
It's like the end of Animal House. And shows
yeah, you just see the little thing go by, and it's kind of cool because it's like you paired up those characters. Everybody who plays, depending on how they, they go through certain situations, who they pair up on the battlefield, those will all be different for them. So.
And this is the greatest Fire Emblem ever?
Right? I hate these questions.
Just for you personally.
They're so hard.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely my favorite.
Your favorite. Okay.
I will say that
Right.
now, and I hate always saying that about the latest entry because you're still like, in hindsight, will that change? But you know what?
No anxiety here, Kim. You don't like
Just celebration.
just
I'm
celebration.
just gonna celebrate. Yes, I would put it there because I think that's the most I've ever been like unable to put a game down from the Fire Emblem
and by the way,
series.
kudos to you. That's beast when you're like, I just finished and just went right back in, up the difficulty and started a second house.
Yep.
Kudos to you. That's you're not playing.
Nope.
You're not playing. So that's a great entry, and I think that's one that it's so talked about. I follow a lot of people on Twitter and things like that. They're big RPG fans, and I know for the biggest people that I know that are the like really hardcore RPG people, they love that game.
It also was a great meme machine as well. So that helped.
That helps. All right. Well, thank you. Brian, Shea.
So, do we want to go with a well-known, like, big
Whatever you
big
want.
game?
Shay.
Or,
I mean,
I have plenty to talk about.
I
but-
mean, like, I think we're not in a hurry, right? That's the thing is that we're gonna get to all of them at some point. So it's your opportunity to bring up what game has been what's been what's been in your head?
I'm gonna do Super Mario Maker 2.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Not to stick with too many Nintendo games, but
I think people like. I've heard people like Nintendo. It's weird. I don't know. Just continue.
I just think that Super Mario Maker 1 was kind of like one of those like dream come true games that I never thought would actually come true. Where it's like, all right, not only can you make your own Mario game or Mario levels, but like it's an official Nintendo product that like, the original creators of Mario helped work on. Like Tezuka was like the producer of that game.
Well, if Nintendo did make it, they would take it down and send a cease and desist. So I mean, there are if it was going to happen.
That's the only way you're getting
it would have to be from Nintendo.
I mean, there are some pretty more complicated mod tools online for like Super Mario World, but like the fact that this was actually released by Nintendo on Wii U is incredible. And then getting a sequel to that on Switch, which is a much better console, and also it's portable, is awesome. And then not only like did it continue on with like the stuff that I loved about Super Mario Maker 1, but it added like a whole new style. It added a whole bunch of new stage elements. It added online play, so you can do competitive or cooperative online play through levels, which is hit or miss because like at launch there wasn't any way to play with your friends. It was all through matchmaking, but they added that after launch. But what you find is a lot of levels aren't exactly designed with 4 players in mind. So so there's like not enough power-ups for everyone to get to like the spot they need to get to or whatever. But the idea is solid with that, even if the execution isn't flawless when it's like merged with how the community actually produces content.
Do you still load it up and play, like download or like bring in random levels to play on like a weekly or daily
not
or
weekly,
monthly?
But like it's my go-to travel game.
Okay,
so like
gotcha.
I just got back from London and I found that game in particular is like a time machine for me when I'm traveling, because like I'll look down to create a level and then I'll look up and it's like an hour and a half later. I'm like, oh
nice.
Okay.
So do you actually like publish and like get those
I have a
levels
few
out
levels
there?
out.
What's your one you're most proud of?
Oh man, I have one that's just kind of like a boss rush where it starts off like with easy enemies and like you defeat an enemy, it gives you a key, and then you can access a warp pipe that takes you up to the next level. Mm-hmm. And then you defeat like a slightly more difficult. It's like all the way from like, all right, here's like a giant Koopa Troopa.
Yeah.
All the way up to like, here's Bowser with like the giant fire stick spinning all over the place, and you have to like get a fire flower and shoot fireballs at him before he kills you. So that was a pretty fun one.
How long did that take you to make?
That took me a while. That was a plane level though.
It took one plane.
I was flying.
One Los Angeles.
Yes, one Los Angeles to. No, I think it was half a Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
So probably about 2 hours to make that. I ran out of bricks. Like you can only put a certain amount of like enemies and bricks and stuff. Yeah. Otherwise, I guess it melts the Switch. But
cool.
I ran out of bricks on that one.
So you like building more than playing?
Oh,
or
absolutely.
downloading?
I mean, I'll always love like playing a Mario game.
Yeah.
Like Super Mario World is my favorite platformer of all time, but and I love it also gives you like I think it's 100 Nintendo created levels on top of all like the community stuff, which is really cool. And it's not just like, hey, here's a level that would feel at home in Super Mario Brothers 3. It's like we have ways that we can break our level creation tools basically using these weird combinations that we've programmed into the game, like putting a Goomba on top of Baby Bowser and putting them in a clown car copter thing. It's like, they do really weird stuff, or like experimenting with like the on-off switches where like you have to time your run through a level like based on like a Koopa Troopa shell that's just flying around hitting switches.
Yeah, I've watched some of those. I mean, I think that's one of the things I enjoy is when there's like someone's like, no way, and you just like watch a clip of some insane level that these people have built that are just it's amazing, and you're just like, I can think of nothing worse than playing Triangle. Actually, it looks so
But there's
hard.
nothing more mesmerizing than watching just the perfect playthrough of that level.
And another thing too, at first when I thought you said you were going to enjoy playing Mario games on the plane, just to throw in a little comment, I play Mario games on the plane, and it's one of those things where I get mad at people at an unbelievable level because someone will either sitting next to me or walking by will hit my elbow, and I will die, and I give the like laser eye death. and I've actually quit playing Mario games on the plane because I get so angry at everyone around me, which is unfair. It's unfair. It's not the place to play. So I understand making the levels. At first, I thought you were just like into the pain of people ruining your run.
I will say that like the greatest experience of playing a video game on a plane was playing Star Fox 64 on my 3DS during extreme turbulence, because like it really felt like immersive.
This rumble feature's amazing.
Like, I mean, well, that was the game that introduced the rumble pack. So like to have like a full body rumble pack was pretty
You're like,
pretty
please
cool.
have turbulence while I play this. Please,
That's
please.
hilarious.
This plane crashes.
All right, Joe.
Yeah.
What's are you gonna go dark horse? Or are you gonna go easy?
Well, I think I might go dark horse to start out with.
Whoa.
Here. Partially because we had half a conversation about this game on the podcast a few weeks ago.
All right.
And didn't quite finish it off. So this is sort of a dual purpose here.
Oh, I like it. Full circle.
Disco Elysium.
I've never heard of it.
You wouldn't be the only one.
No, I have heard.
No, I know. Yeah, you played a few hours.
Yes.
No, so this is one that when we talked about it last, I had just started. I'd played a couple hours of it. I was just starting on the review. And since then, I have put in 40-ish hours, and the review's up on the site now. And that game is really something special in a way that it's kind of deceptive in the way that it starts, because it starts making you think that you kind of know what you're in for. It has some, like, at a basic level, you play this detective who's just a train wreck of a person who wakes up in a daze in a trashed hotel room with no real memory of the last few days. And at that point, I've kind of locked in, like, okay, we've got the archetype of the, detective wrestling with his personal demons. There's a murder mystery that kicks in pretty quick.
As a Columbo fan, did that sing to you in any way?
I do like detective stuff.
Yeah, okay.
I really do.
Just wondering.
But where the game starts to get really special is the way that it conveys this sense of you're essentially like at war with yourself. The main character has all of these different like parts of his personality that are conversing with him in his head, but you as the player like read this text as it scrolls along the side of the screen, and you get a weird sense of the personality and like impulses of the different things that are kind of like vying for control in your mind, how you approach a situation. Like there's a locked door, and this part of you called physical instrument is like, we should break this door down. And then there's another part of you that is saying, hey, maybe we should just go, don't break the door down.
Let's talk to the manager and get keys to the room.
Maybe there's a better way to do this. Or a part of you that like represents your hunches and gut instinct is like, there's danger on the other side of that door. You do not want to bust in there unprepared. So it's like you're getting advice from all of these different characters, except it's all your character, and that's also your progression system. So when you get skill points, there's no combat in the game, so you just get skill points from interacting with people, from having conversations, from doing exploration kinds of stuff. And then when you get those skill points, you spend them to make those facets of your personality stronger for when checks come. So when it's something like, okay, you need to make a check to see if your instinct, to see if your hunch can detect something that's amiss. And if it does, then it chimes in, and it might say like, hey, in this next dialogue option, listen to the guy's story. Don't rush him along. And then you do, and then something good happens, so
it's a very, very advanced kind of choose your own adventure to some degree, like super, super in depth. And also to your point, I like one of the things, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything, but one of the things that made me laugh early on was like, it was like, he has a conversation and like someone says like, you're like a hobo cop. He goes like, hobo cop. And then that like becomes one of the things that you can pursue. You're like, I like the idea of being a hobo cop. That's me. You know what I mean? And you kind of pick those traits about yourself. It's like I said, it's kind of a weirdly intellectual game because it has this people in your head talking back to you, but it does make the conversations extremely interesting, and you really have to pay attention, I felt like. And though I haven't played as much as I'd like, and it's one of those games that I was telling Joe the other day, the icon like literally should just blink on my computer, because like when I'm done and I'm like, you need to come back. Because I do want to get back to it, and everyone who's played it has been like, you gotta go back, because wherever you are not far enough is essentially.
Yeah, and like one thing that makes it difficult to talk about is I don't want to give too much away about the way that like the mystery unfolds, but it's really satisfying in that regard. The world that you explore is this fictional setting that even it's a handful of screens. Like, well, it's not even separated by screens, but it's a relatively small but open world that you explore. But you just get the sense of this world being so much bigger than this little bit of it that you're in. There's all of this mythology and stuff that people are talking about. And so it's the sort of thing that when you go and talk to an NPC, they tell you a story that may not be directly relevant to what's happening right now. It might be some old guy who's just telling you about a revolution that happened 80 years ago or something. But I was still reading all of that text because it just builds the world in such a fascinating way.
Yeah, it's a surprise hit for this year, and I know a lot of people have simply said it's the game of the year, and they're done.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
So,
it is for as much as I love the Outer Worlds, which we can talk about later. But like Disco Elysium is like in contention for my number one spot.
Wow.
It is great.
Well,
There's
it's
nothing like it.
It's the Columbo fantasy that you've always wanted, and plus there's a reference to RoboCop with HoboCop.
Exactly.
So it's like all we need is like a Rocky
Everything
reference.
by the way, I hope I'm getting that reference right, but I think that's what it was. It was something like
it is. It is. There are different sort of like, archetype isn't the right word, but depending on how you respond to different things, there are types of cop that you can be, and one of them is hobo cop.
Yeah, okay, all right.
And then I was like superstar cop. I kept telling everyone like, I'm a superstar. And because you're just like I'm just some drunken disaster with this grimace on my face all the time, but I'm like playing like I'm big party disco guy.
And it does have fun. Like it has like one-time roll of the dice kind of things where you take chances, and like it does have I think very interesting dialogue that feels like it has real choice in it, right? Like you definitely have some kind of consequences as you go through the conversation trees that are there.
And it's just unbelievably well written and really funny.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
like a sequence where you solve something minor and you try to give your partner a high five, and it is like this 2-page interaction where you're just making all these different choices. It's really interesting.
And whether or not you like do that high five gives you different thoughts that you can engage in to give you different bonuses. Things like HoboCop. Like,
yes.
This is a thing that I'm going to think about in my thought cabinet, and when that thought is complete, it gives you like different bonuses. And I mean, yeah, like Leo said, there's nothing like it out there. So part of the fun of it is the novelty of just like being surprised by it. But another part of the fun, I think, is just like how well it's executed, just immaculately paced from a storytelling perspective. And then, like Leo said, the writing is just great.
And it's just on PC.
Only PC now, but coming to console next year.
Nice, very nice. Well, that's certainly one I think on everybody's list of things that they need to check out. So, Leo, in the box.
Yes.
Have you thought at all? What is? I know you've brought up some interesting ones in the meeting, so let's hear.
I have very much a dark horse candidate.
Is it Fart in the Jar? Never mind.
It's called Card of Darkness. I'm going to play the Overworld music right now. Because
He has an advantage.
Yeah.
He always does.
It's technology.
Did you say card with a D or T?
Yes, with a D as in dog.
Okay.
It's a game where all the art was done by Pendleton Ward, who created Adventure Time.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of a card-based game. It's that good, simple arithmetic that is very satisfying in card games. You're just going through this cute little world, cute little art, great music, interesting boss battles. It's definitely been my most played thing on my phone, certainly.
So card battle in what way? Can you explain a little bit about a battle, or give us an example?
You'll start a level and it'll just be this field of cards. It's like 4x4, 5x5, and you'll be picking up weapons and trying to match the parity with the monster, meaning whether it's an even or an odd. is kind of your main interaction. So if it's an even sword and an even enemy, you'll keep the weapon, but if it's a mismatch, it'll break. And so it's kind of like doing what you can with one weapon and then setting up being able to do a lot with the next weapon you get. There's potions and there's these cards that you're equipping and unlocking that will boost.
So it's not like really card battle. It's more like you're playing kind of a solitaire and using using the cards that you pick from your stacks essentially the goal is to eliminate the enemies that are in front of you.
You're kind of carving a path through them.
Gotcha.
And once you take one card from a pile, you have to finish off that pile. So there's some strategy there.
Is this only on mobile?
Yeah, it's only on Apple Arcade right now, and I haven't heard a single word about it.
Oh wow.
And it's interesting because there's like this card where you get a 50% chance to resist stun. And for me, that's always resisted stun 100% of the time. And I think since nobody's like playing it or talking about it, they don't know about that bug. And I'm not going to submit that bug because it makes my life easier. So I don't know. It's an interesting little thing, and I've been playing a lot of it.
Oh,
Hopefully nobody from Apple listens.
I have an Apple Arcade subscription. I'm going to check this out right away.
I need to do my trial membership to get that 1 month for free. I might check that out as well.
You should.
Yeah, and I'm gonna. Even though this is about me interviewing you, Grindstone is really good.
I've been playing that recently too.
Just kind of throwing in a little Andyism in there, but I'm a big fan. If you've got your phone out and you're checking out Card of Darkness. And when you go into the store, it changes the music. It's just like a different version of the same song. He's trying to trick us with the music. You know that, right?
Hey,
it's great music.
Leo, you should do that for everyone's game.
Yeah, where's our music?
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I was treated unfairly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I can just play this music for all yours.
Like I said, we're lucky he doesn't edit us out of every episode.
That's true.
So we gotta go with that. All right, fantastic. So all right, let's bring it back, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna do this. I'm thinking of an RPG. No, I'm just kidding. So what's next from you? What else mattered to you this year?
Of course, an RPG.
Well, there's one I can think of that pretty much only Kim can played through, I think.
I will. Yeah, So it's actually like it came out in the beginning of the year. So it kind of feels like a fever dream at this point. But then again, every time I play this series, it feels like a fever dream, and that would be Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh yes.
Yes. The game I feel like I get most bullied for liking, but I go all into it, and I wear my love for that series on my sleeve, and I will not be ashamed of it. And guess what? I got your back, everyone who feels like people make fun of them for liking Kingdom Hearts.
I don't think anyone's making fun of you for liking Kingdom Hearts. I think people are just making fun of Kingdom Hearts.
I don't know. Sometimes I agree with Kim. I think I see it in other areas where people they're like, how can you like that game? And it's like, it's Final Fantasy and Disney. I mean, it's like, I think
just Disney,
it was made for me.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's like people enjoy that world, right? I mean, that's what you're into. I mean,
I've been playing the series since I was in high school at this point. So and those characters have been in like every single game, and trying to see how some of the stories end and where it goes. And, I will admit Nomura has an interesting way of approaching things sometimes, and there are lots of storylines to follow. But at the end of the day, I feel like I'm a little kid in the candy store when I play that game. Every time, it just makes me happy. It is like my happy place. And we waited so long for Kingdom Hearts 3 to actually come out, and finally having that game. I was worried about it too, because it's like when you have something that has so many expectations on it, and I still think like there were a lot that go beyond. I think they were never going to answer every little thing, and I think if you know Nomura, there will always be a tease at the end of his games that just make you go, what the? And so there's definitely a what the there that I think some people either liked or they didn't like, and some handling of some characters that could have been done better. But at the end of the day, that game was just so fun. I mean, going in the toy store, they got the Pixar properties in there, and that was a big get. And all right, if I had to wait so they could get my favorites like Monsters Inc., Toy Story in there, totally worth it. And I think people, like I said, it came out so early in the year that at one point, I think people kind of forget, or at the same time, it's like, well, there's not as many, there's now so many other RPGs that have come out since it, but it still ranks high in my book. When I think of basing it on my personal experiences and like how fun I had, that was like, again, another game that was very fun to review, that I was just like, it cheers me up. I'm going to say that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's actually really great. So
That's a good recommendation.
Yeah,
more than digging into systems and mechanics and stuff like that. It's like an experiential approach. We were talking
exactly.
about that.
I know at times when I played it, it felt a little slow, but like that's the one thing I always have to say is like, it obviously was not made for me, right? It was made
that's
for
always
fans.
I said all the time. I said Kingdom Hearts when I talk to people about it. It's like you either get it or you don't get it. And I think sometimes for the people who don't get it, like didn't like it, whatever, it's very easy to like be like, how could you like that? But at the same time, like there's something that pulls a lot of people. That fandom is huge, and like I said, I play it, and it's just like, it's so much fun.
That's awesome. So could you? Because I always think it's interesting with things that are like this on this kind of. Could I? If you were like, Kim, you've convinced me. I need to play Kingdom Hearts 3. Do I need to play the other ones?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I feel like because I talk to other people in the office. Originally I told people, because this is how I felt about it, I'm like, hey, if you just want to have fun in some Disney worlds and you don't care about that story, you can definitely do that here. But
to get it, you have to.
I think to have to get the most out of that game and to see why all those threads that were finally like, undone that we had been waiting on or whatever, how that everything ends up, like you need to have played all those. And I think that does make the experiences like, because everyone will go, well, then do I have to play this one, this one, this one? And I'm just like, you know what? At baseline, play 1 and 2, and play Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance, and those are like the 4. Dream Drop, you can just
quickly,
look up. I can just
hop
go through
those.
But like I said, if you're willing to, miss out on understanding some of the story things that are going on, because I always feel like all these games always try to.
By the way,
like,
I don't think you have to reason out. I think the answer is you need to. If you're going to care about Kingdom Hearts, you need to go from the start. You know what I mean? I think that's what it sounds like.
I
to me.
think that's the best way to. One of my things I'm like, I wish sometimes at some point like I could go back and have replayed them all like right before. I replayed some of them, like I did Dream Drop Distance, I think right before I went into this one, but God, it's been so long ago since I've played like the first ones.
So when you said the ending's a little weird, if I played through 5 games, am I going to be like, dear God, this is the ending? Is it good? Is it a payoff? Is it a payoff or not a payoff? I'm getting a little mixed.
But I mean, it's not the end yet.
Yeah.
So it's just like you're just saying it's a stop on the station.
A lot of Nomura had said when like way ahead of this game in interviews, like the end is also a beginning, and that's certainly what is happening here.
All right, you've answered our question.
Though I think it's interesting because, especially from the sort of like when publishers are messaging a game that they're putting out, there's always this reluctance to say that you need previous experience, right? Hey, this is Mass Effect 3 is the perfect place to jump in on this.
It's like,
Get it on Wii U.
We have summaries. We have summaries you can read, and I always feel like that is the worst.
No, I just wish more people were comfortable saying no, play Kingdom Hearts. If you're going to play this one, you need to play the other one.
Yeah, and I think it's important for publishers to enable and find like price sensitive ways to get people those games and those products so that they can. I mean, by the way, you're not just selling someone Kingdom Hearts 3. You're selling someone the Kingdom Hearts lifestyle, right? As like a thing. And I think sometimes they forget that. That they've got to figure out ways to get those old games in front of people because they matter and games with this kind of scope and scale. So I agree. It's a great conversation on that. Thank you, Kim. I'm expecting another RPG from you in the future. Brian,
Are you expecting another platformer from me?
okay, hold on. Let's see if I can do this. Ukulele.
Well, now that you said that, I'm going to go Far Cry New Dawn.
The one thing you weren't expecting him to say.
I was going to go Yooka-Laylee in the Impossible Lair, which is a very good platformer. I highly recommend it. But let's talk Far Cry New Dawn.
So I guessed right, is what
You
you're
did.
saying. I did guess right.
But you had to ruin the fun.
Yeah, well, that's what I do.
So yeah, I mean, I think that this was a game that when it was announced, so it's a...
Are we talking about Far Cry?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
It's real. It's real.
Far Cry New Dawn. It was a game that was announced as a direct sequel of Far Cry 5, which people were not particularly hot on. But I think that New Dawn, which is set in like a post-apocalyptic version of, I think it's Montana. I think that's where it was. But it's set in a post-apocalyptic version of that where like nukes have gone off and it's, I think, like 20 years later or 30 years later or something like that. And they just really embraced like the zaniness that you like from Far Cry. Like Far Cry has always been like
Systems.
1 foot in reality, 1 foot in, hey, let's jump off a cliff and be in like the squirrel suit or whatever it's called, and fly around a mountaintop. But like this time they just put they put both feet in the zaniness where it's like there's like glowing bears running around because of the radiation.
So it's the
There's-
just cause of Far Cry
it
games.
has that vibe, I think.
Yeah.
You
Like,
get a
there's-
double jump.
You can, you can.
you
You get a
do?
double jump. There's
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
The gun that they introduced this time is a saw launcher, so it shoots like saw blades at people, and they home in on enemies. So like you can upgrade that to shoot 3 saws, like a Contra spread gun.
And we all know from our community emails that adding saws to something makes a gun great.
it does.
That's a callback that you guys weren't a part of, but it's okay. We don't care.
It's all right. I that's great.
I got it, Andy.
It's enough to secure you a legacy position on a list.
But continue. So great weapons. The story's good?
Yeah, it's fine.
No,
It's
it's
fine.
not good.
It's fine.
I played through that.
Kingdom Hearts. You're just talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Why are you bullying Brian
No,
so much?
I'm not bullying. Here's what I'm going to say.
This is the game I get bullied the most for liking, aside from Sonic.
I played through the entire. I actually beat it as well, and I found that game to just be like a fun, mindless game that I could just go play. And it came at the right time where I just was like, I don't want anything that feels super intensive right now to play. I just want to have fun in an open world, and it's exactly that.
That's what it gives you. Yep.
But when I got towards the very end, I was just like, what the hell is this? Like,
Yeah, it does go off the rails.
Yeah, it
but
really goes off the rails. And
And-
so it was the one thing I was just like, and I know Far Cry does that though, but it's just like, it was just a little much for me.
I will say that the thing that Far Cry consistently struggles with, and this game is no different, is the final boss battles.
Yes.
This was one of the worst final boss battles of the year, if not the worst, of any game I've played anyway. And it was the rest of that game I really, really liked, but yeah, that was terrible.
No. Well, sometimes that happens, but I'm glad the rest of it's fun. And it's like classic like towers and all those kind of classic
Yeah.
Ubisoft open world
Yep.
systems.
Exactly, scoping out a camp, and they added new higher powered backup units that come in. Like, so if you get spotted while you're taking down people in a camp trying to clear it out, they'll if your notoriety is high enough, they'll call in these higher level guys that early on in the game you have no chance of taking them down. You need a really powerful weapon or a special perk that lets you assassinate them or whatever. So that's kind of cool. It adds
cool.
adds the stakes.
Yeah, and I like this that we're on a path of remembering the things from earlier in the year. This
I
is
actually
great.
forgot
This is
that
great.
came out this year until
Yeah.
you brought it up the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I played through that. I should know that.
I hate when that happens in those
It's
meetings.
like I've lost my time.
I agree with you on that because I'll go that didn't come out this year, and I'll pick up a piece of paper and go it was May. It wasn't even that long ago. It was May. How did I let that happen? But
Everything pre E3 is just a
Yeah,
blur.
that is what it is. Everything pre.
I love how this goes directly counter to an answer that Dan gave to a community email question in the last segment, which was we don't forget about games. If they come out early in the year, we remember everything.
well, we do eventually remember them. We bring it up.
Yeah,
we
we have-
do
Well,
eventually.
actually-
We as a group have collective memory.
yes,
on that.
Yeah.
but it does. It's hard to remember sometimes.
Off
those
the top
things
of your head, it's hard. But we have records.
Yeah.
I have my phone with a list of all the games that I've played this year.
I do the same thing. I make my top games if I like them. Really, I put it in there. Not that if you had fun, you shouldn't forget a game. Don't get me wrong, but just as a little reminder, because
You see a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
see,
for
you
sure.
play
Here's a long
a
time.
lot.
Yeah.
I mean, even during E3, I'll go through my notes, be like, "Oh yeah, I played that game on Tuesday. Holy crap, I
Yeah.
completely forgot."
Well, E3 is 14-hour
E3 is like a
days.
fever dream.
I don't remember my name on day 3 of E3. And I've done like interviews where people ask me questions and I just look at them glassy-eyed and confused. So Joe,
Yeah.
we're back. We
Oh,
did some
yeah.
disco.
Yeah, well, hey, let's continue the trend of going a long way back to the Outer Worlds 3 weeks ago.
Wow, it's so far back.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I mean, this is a weird one because we've been talking about it so much
have been, yes.
lately that I don't know how deep we want to dig on it here, but like that's one of those games where, like Kim said for Fire Emblem, like I finished my playthrough of that and did a second playthrough.
Yeah.
right away because I was like, I need to know how this is different. What happens if I do this choice? I made a melee character before. What if I do a rifle focused character? What if I'm evil instead of good here? And I did that before the review even. Like I did finish 2 playthroughs of that
That's crazy.
before we even. Well, the second one was very fast and sloppy,
you took
but-
the straight and narrow. to
Yeah,
get to the end,
exactly, exactly. Like
Yeah.
very, very. I think that one was
Golden
like
Path.
Yeah, it was like an 8 to 10 hour thing where, like, if there was a quick and easy solution that involved murdering a key character, I would murder that character and go on to the next quest.
But that's great that the game had that much choice. I mean, that was the thing. Even in my, I've not played it as much as I've wanted to, as I've been trying to get through games. But in my early playthrough, I really felt like I loved the dialogue. I loved the choices that were there, and they felt like they mattered, which is like just such an important part of RPGs in that world, and making sure like it doesn't have to be 600,000 hours if my time there means something.
Yeah,
Right?
and it's certainly not
Short.
Yeah, it's not a short game, but it's not this massive. I know a lot of people these days now. I mean, I'm pushing 40 here, and a lot of my friends are like. It's not a selling point anymore to say a game is 80 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not like a good thing.
Yeah. It just says you're really gonna have to commit to that and
Yeah.
not get like
For the
different
things-
game. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for work, I play what I play, but when I'm at home, in the free time I have, I'm probably not. Like, I haven't gotten around to Fire Emblem yet because things are like for the time that I put in that and like the off hours. What other things can I play? What else can I get to? And like that's a real concern sometimes.
So here's my question about Outer World. So it's kind of always had this like, because the original team from Fallout's on it. That there's this kind of like there's this shadow of Fallout. I think that you just kind of see a little bit as you like look or talk about this game. Right?
Yeah.
So does it escape the shadow? Does it live in the shadow? Does it celebrate in that shadow? Where does it fit in that?
Fallout should be embarrassed. That's where it sits.
Wow.
Ooh.
I like Leo's take on
You
that.
do like Leo's take.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what Fallout you're talking about.
I think the series as a whole, and then also I think we would also like Fallout 3 and Fallout 76 and Fallout 4 would all be, I think, of relevance to the
Everything
conversation,
since
right?
3, I think.
Yeah, for me, I've not played Fallout 76, so I can't speak to that. But I mean, it's also telling that I played some Fallout 4 and just kind of
walked away.
But
Yeah.
I loved Fallout 3 and played a ton of that. So
And obviously loved Outer Worlds.
and loved Outer Worlds. And I think
What
part
about
of
New Vegas?
I also played some of New Vegas
Because that's
enjoyed it.
the last Obsidian Fallout.
Yeah. I don't think I ever actually finished that one, but I spent a good bit of time with that, with like throwing some mods in there and stuff.
Sure.
So that's fun. But I think part of what is it's a hard thing to articulate because a lot of times people, when they're playing a game today, they're like, okay, what's new, what's innovative, what blows your mind about it, right? What blows your hair back? And for Disco Elysium, there was a lot of stuff that I was like, I can't believe they're doing this.
Yeah.
Is really surprising. I wouldn't say that The Outer Worlds is a surprising game in that respect. It is what you think it is, and it is the game they set out to make. But part of what's impressive about that, I think, is like I was on the team that went to go visit Obsidian earlier this year when we did that cover, and we've seen so many times where you go when a game's in development and they have these grand visions for the game and these aspirations. And yeah, we don't know exactly how all this is going to click together, but this is the game we want it to be. And that is one of my favorite phases of a game because there's just so much potential.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've lost count of the number of times where in the 9 months, year and a half since we go do those trips, that vision degrades or changes
They have
or
to make
is
choices.
compromised.
Yeah.
And that's not always a bad thing either. I mean,
No.
sometimes that vision is too big to be a real thing. And
Yeah.
like that needs to happen sometimes. But it was a very pleasant moment to play through Outer Worlds and see that this is the game they wanted it to be. This is
Yeah.
the game that they told us it would be earlier this year. It doesn't seem like, I mean, I'm sure that they had to make cuts and sacrifices along the way, but not in any of the things I was excited about. Like the companions, the story, the way the choice, the world sort of responds or gives you options around different situations.
The combat is genuinely fun.
Yeah. I
really
think so.
solid. Yeah, I think they did a good
so.
job with that. And it's, I mean, I think the thing I've noticed is just a trend from people that really enjoy that game that world speaks to them. Like that world, they really nailed great as far as the world building goes. That if you like that kind of some campy humor and like
Yeah.
that kind of sci-fi kind of things, if that's your thing, like that, those are the people that are always like game of the year for me. And that's what really elevates it for them.
It's entertaining and clever without being one of those games like that's just throwing jokes at you constantly.
Yeah.
It's not like a ching punchline kind of game. It's a game that has that like the humor comes a lot from just the absurdity of the setting. and
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah,
for it.
yeah. No, that's definitely one that's I feel is like going to be in the top 5 discussion, top 3 discussion. I feel like I know a lot of people love that game, really enjoyed it. I'm looking at my clock going, I need to finish that game so I can win some arguments.
You need to cut this podcast short and go home and start
I'm
playing
so
games.
bad at this podcast. I'm so bad at it. But that's a different problem. Leo,
Hey.
how are you doing? Are you gonna have music again? Because we're
No, I think I do actually have a
this is unfair.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
If we had some
yeah,
kind
this
of
is a competition, and I am in the lead currently.
what do you have for us?
Streets of Rogue. I've been championing this game for a while, so maybe people are annoyed with me talking about it, but I think it's very special. It's going to be one of those games I just come back to forever on the level of like a Spelunky. It's a
Sounds very
roguelike like
catchy, by the
Spelunky.
way,
Yes.
Leo.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I'll introduce people to this game, and no matter what they think about the actual game, they're always like, wow, the music is really good. But
cheating.
yeah, and I am cheating. To describe it a bit, it's a roguelike that simulates a city. So you'll go into a level and it'll be like 10 or 12 buildings that all have a different function. There's things going on. You have missions to go steal this thing, hit these switches, buy this thing from this guy, and you can solve them in all kinds of really clever ways. There are different characters you can be that can hack, characters that never kill.
I do like the
characters-
music.
It's really good. Characters that like have to assassinate somebody on every single level to have an assassination target. Just an example that happened to me recently of the kind of procedural gameplay you get out of it is that I had to free these people from jail, and I was not the type of character that could do anything there. I couldn't pick the lock, I couldn't kill the guys inside. So I went next door to this hospital where a hacker was laying in a hospital bed with doctors taking care of him, and I hired the hacker and told him to hack the building next door to open the doors and let the people I had to break out of jail free.
Oh, nice.
It's just those weird little procedural moments like that. It's 4-player co-op, so like having different characters working together just multiplies the possibilities.
Wow.
So
It's really
what's the
fun.
roguelike element?
That's exactly where I was going, Joe.
The city is different every time. Your missions are different every time. You kind of have this grand quest you're going through. It's like Spelunky, where it has a finite ending at the end of 5 worlds.
So you don't bring any new powers with you that like make it easier the next time you go in. It's just more that it's procedural.
Mostly that it's procedural, and you're unlocking different modifiers. So as you level up, at the end of the level, you get to pick a trait. That'll be like
okay.
nimble fingers, so interacting with stuff is faster, or you'll knock people back more. And it's more about opening up different options than it is about boosting your character.
Gotcha. And improving, I'm sure, like making it a little more streamlined. is what it sounds like as well. If you're like opening things faster or doing things in a quicker manner.
Oh yeah, those are just like per run though.
Okay.
Those kind of upgrades are just as your character powers up over the course of one run, and then you lose everything at the end, except for the currency to buy more modifiers.
Where would I play this game if I wanted to play this game?
It is on everything.
On everything.
What?
Yeah, and I think it's a great Switch game.
How
I'd
did I
recommend
miss
getting
this?
it there for sure. Yeah.
Great Switch.
This sounds
game. All right.
amazing.
Leo, you kind of sold me on this.
I
a
think you
little.
sold me on it as well.
Great. We
By the
should
way,
play co-op.
This is the magic of this segment that I'm looking for. I'm looking for to be sold on games that you wouldn't have played in this table, in this room, and hopefully for the listeners at home that they're finding new things that they get to explore.
It was
for
easy
no
to
other
miss.
reason than the music.
Yeah. There are a lot of roguelikes
There are a lot
all
of
the
roguelikes.
time, and
yeah.
it's easy to miss them.
And
This one's really worthwhile.
It's often an instant turnoff for me when it's a roguelike. So it's like that.
It's not for me, but I hear you. Everyone should have their genres that they like and things that challenge them or
The term speaks
engage
to a
them.
level of investment that can be intimidating
Yes,
sometimes.
agreed. Last week we went through about the same amount of games, maybe a little less, or maybe a little more. But I think this is actually a good stopping point because I think we have a lot to talk about and a lot of great games to go through. So thank you all for being on the show. Appreciate it. I think this is I love this talk. I like a little bit slower speed rather than what we have in the meetings, and I hope everybody's enjoying sitting in and listening to us chat about these games. Thank you for watching or listening to the Game Informer Show. Send in your questions to podcast@gameinformer.com. Smash that button, subscribe, follow us on Twitter and talk to us and tell us what you think. And thank you so much for listening to the Game Informer Show. See you next week.
Thanks.